Good evening and welcome to the City of Isani City Council Work Session Goal Settings for Monday, January 4th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all rise for Pledge Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Paul said the same thing. You sound like you're a hockey announcer. And then he says, let's drop the puck. Doing roll call, all council members are present, minus, I'm sure they'll be a little late. Councilman Gordon and Councilman Lundin is not present. Let's move on to D, welcome and review purpose of goal setting work session.
All right, thank you, Mayor and council members. So it has been the practice of the City Council to conduct an annual goal-setting work session that allows leaders to come together to assess the city's current initiatives and practices, discuss the future state of our city, establish goals balancing workload and demand with available resources, and action to obtain desired outcomes. The planning process includes discussion on development for where we are at and where we are going, followed by discussions for implementation of how we will get there and how staff can help achieve the goals council sets. The purpose of our session today is to develop consensus to discuss top priorities for 2022, as well as providing direction in the 2022-2023 budget principles, also looking at our capital improvements plan, to develop a work plan which includes direction for staff to not only go through 2022, but also even beyond. These can be goals that you would like to see within the City of Isani reaching far out. It could be over 10 years, 20 years, things that you'd like to see of where our city is going to go. To assist with the prioritization, I've assembled quite a few attachments to the agenda packet for this evening. It includes goals that go all the way back to 2005 that I could find on record, as well as putting together some additional articles, and we can go through those one by one.
Alrighty then. Existing council approval, ongoing plans.
So within your packet here, you have our different plans that we have approved through the City Council process, as well as the years that they've been completed and when they have been updated. I'm happy to announce that Mr. Cook has brought here our capital improvement plan that has been updated. We just started discussing this plan in 2019. Excited that it has now been bound together, and this is our final plan that you have before you. So this is your copy in addition if you'd like to keep it with you, or you could keep it here at your dais council seat if you'd like. Included within this plan has got the capital improvement plans that we've discussed at every budget workshop in the last few years, as well as corresponding maps that have information outlining when the dates will come, or when the work will come and be done. And we have
I do gotta say my favorite one is the mill and overlay. I constantly refer to that one. That's what everybody, is everybody's street gonna get fixed or just the mayor's? I hear that quite often.
You're like, that was a coincidence planned for years.
That's exactly what I said. The city's got a whole plan. You wanna go to City Hall and request it, you're more than welcome.
If you have any questions on any of these plans or when they were completed or if they will be updated or when, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next item.
Moving on to the next item then, 2021 goals and process summary.
All right, here we have goals that we discussed as council, or as you as council last year, and some of them were started the year prior, so I'd like to give you a progress report summary on those. So we had a holiday light display that was planned for implementation in 2022, and we are moving forward with that. A Veterans Memorial was discussed, and the consensus was to wait until there were shared interests either by the VFW or other organization. Lighting and snowmaking hill, or sledding hill, was completed within Bluebird Park. There was discussion on speed limit reduction to 20 miles per hour in developments. This is an ongoing discussion, and it depends on what the cities are permitted to do per statute. Public Works salt shed and storage. This is in the CIP for 2025. The police department facility that is closing, and we've closed on it. It's going to be completed here this year, and hopefully PD will be able to move in this year. A new liquor store was completed, and as you know, we've had some amazing sales and some record-setting numbers. The fire district facility lease to purchase, that lease was approved, and we closed, we will close on that by December of 2025, and that is when they will take ownership of that facility. Discussions on Heritage East Dual Boulevard intersection, discussions still remain in progress with Isanti County. Reducing overall budget, we are on target with conservative spending to have a flat tax rate at a minimum. As Mike will say, and I will speak on his behalf this evening, we want to make sure that we don't have any double-digit increases or decreases and keep on our path to becoming debt-free. Utility rate study was completed. We actually did water and sewer together, and we also completed storm in 2021. These reductions will continue through 2024. There was discussion on a dynamic reader board sign. We will again be discussing that and the endeavors moving forward on that this evening. Smart irrigation reimbursement program. The consensus was not to move forward with the program since irrigation is not required per zoning requirements. Workforce housing incentives. Consensus was not to approve. We want them to be able to use what's already established, not go beyond that, and we will take it as they come to the city. And business registration was discussed, and the consensus was not to pursue that as well. We didn't want to add additional paperwork to businesses. We do like the idea of knowing when they come to our city. However, that is an additional step for the business owner as well as staff. Let me know if you have any questions.
So I guess I fibbed a little because I'm going to fall back to E. I do have a question on, like, some of the older items, the 2014 pavement management plan.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that that should be revisited and bring it current? Or like some of the older items, the wellhead protection plan, those are the only two that I see there. Oh, well, the water, sewer, storm, infrastructure plan, just to revisit them and make sure that we're still on the same page. I mean, those are kind of outdated and old.
Yeah, actually, I could update this table or at least make sure it's correctly reflected that the capital improvement plan, the one that we just sent out this evening, that was our final draft, does include the pavement management articles. So when we're seal coating and stuff, so really that plan name is really incorporated within this document. For the wellhead protection plan, I think that we do those every 10 years per requirements of whether it's the Department of Health or the MPCA for stormwater management. So we do those on certain cycles. So I believe that that one will come up in 2024.
I was just curious on some of the older things if we needed to.
It means you mentioned the liquor store and the police department. Did we close on the old liquor store?
Yeah.
We did?
Oh, yeah.
So when do they move in?
There's a sign out front that they are coming April.
Okay.
They've been working on the interior somewhat.
Okay, I haven't noticed, so, but thank you.
Anything for you, Councilman Brigley? Well, almost anything.
Almost anything.
Any questions, concerns? 2022-24 budget projects and CIP.
So here I have summarized, these are the same items that are within the CIP that we discussed during the budget workshops as well. Some of them were smaller items that I did lump together, so if you're comparing identical spreadsheets together, some of the numbers have been added just to make it concise to one sheet. But these are what we have planned in the CIP for 2022, 23, and 24. These could change, but this is what council has approved per the CIP plan.
He's whispering to himself.
Yeah, I'm actually talking to myself. I'm just blown away at $84,000 for a tractor mower. And Dan says that's cheap. Oh my God, I was just blown out of my tennis shoes and he says that's cheap.
And Mayor and Council, I should have added in the very beginning of the meeting, we do have almost all of our department heads and very important staff here. So if you have any questions that are directed just for their departments, please reach out and ask them as well.
Yeah, they're looking dapper today too, so.
It says tractor and mower replacements. Is it, please tell me that's more than one.
I believe that's gonna be the tractor that pulls the progressive, I'm guessing.
Oh, that's the big boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big tractor.
Did you get your plow truck this year or when is that projected?
We haven't ordered it yet, but
What's this?
late fall in the plow truck.
Pavement management. What's our building updates for 50,000? Our
that?
building updates for 50,000?
I believe that that is the police department updates. Is it under PD?
No, it
Yes.
just says building up, oh, it is
Under
under PD, I'm sorry.
Yep, that is to add some additional things to the new facility that we purchased. This will include making the entrance so it's protected for the staff, but also open to the public. And
Oh,
then we
that's
do
enough.
have an evidence room.
When do we start on that? Maybe the chief, maybe that's a chief question.
Yeah, actually, the chief as well as other staff have been over to the facility and to start getting some measurements and costs and seeing what is there. Building official was also there, I believe, and the finance director. And I think that the current, well, he's now the renter, the former owner will be in there, he's thinking until about June or so. So the remodel will take place after he has vacated the facility and stopped leasing. But they're trying to collect information to make sure we have enough money funded for what needs to be done.
Well, that answered my question I was gonna ask. You took the words right out of my mouth. Any other questions? I just started looking at big price tags. Sorry, I fell in the hole there. We'll
It's
move on
quite
to
a
H
lot.
then.
Nothing's
Right.
cheap anymore.
Oh, I see that. It's inflation. It's crazy. We'll move on to H, the 2005, 2020 established council goals for reference.
Thank you. So I'm not going to go through this year by year. You have it in front of you, so I'm sure you've already reviewed it. These are just goals that were set or discussion items that were set going back to 2005. If there's any questions, I can answer that. Otherwise, that was just for your information.
Could you clarify something before you go through that? Is this accomplished goals, or is this goals that we have yet to accomplish, or both?
This one is goals that were set. I did not go through and write to check to see if they were all accomplished or not. That these were just set by resolution, that they were the council's goals of that year.
Okay, thank you.
If you have it, if you want me to go through to say if they were done though, let me know. We could go through them.
I think a majority of these on here were completed, because if you look in 19,
I would think so.
we completed every one of those. 20, we completed every one of those.
I've not looked at this list yet because my,
Oh, your iPad.
doesn't work.
Son of a gun.
It's still not working?
Here comes the working iPad even as we speak.
I do have an
80
extra
to the
packet if
rescue.
we need.
Anybody got any questions
Where's
on
my-
that?
where's my-
Dan, Paul? Anyone? Bueller?
Thank you.
Bueller? No one? Current and proposed staffing plan.
All right, so each year I go through and put together our staffing plan. These are the current staff that we have, which is in the blue, and also give council an outlook as to what we're planning to add to our great staff team over the years. So I usually go out a few years if I can. These are established by looking at the matrix of what population we have, what we think we'll have, what we think we'll have for workload. We definitely do stretch our staff as far as we can to make sure that we are being as efficient as possible. But as our city grows, we do need to implement more staff and add to our great team. So what you'll see here is we do have a full-time utility lead position being added next year. We don't have any changes for 2022, no additions of staff for this year. But for 2023, we have that utility lead. We have increasing the CSO in the police department from 3/4 time to full-time. And then we have adding a part-time seasonal under the parks coordinator. You will see that the parks coordinator has moved under community development. I do think that that is best for staff efficiency, as well as alleviating our public services director to focus more on water, sewer, streets, storm, and other utilities that he works on. Then for 2024, we have 2 positions. One will be another full-time officer, and then one will be a full-time marketing coordinator.
What do you consider the staff fully staffed right now? Are we missing anybody?
We do have one open position that they're they have the posting open for, and they hope to fill that soon.
Okay, thank you.
So currently, the city employs 34 full-time staff, 17 part-time, 5 part-time seasonal/interns, and then we do use some contracted services such as our engineering.
Any questions?
No.
So, I have a question, and that's all this is, and I'm just looking for a logical answer, because I looked at it and was blown out of my sneakers once again. But I was looking at the city of Wyoming. I've done a lot of homework for this goal setting this year. But I looked at the city of Wyoming, and I think they have 6 or 7 staff people with a bigger population than us. How the heck is that possible?
Are you talking administrative staff, or what type of staff?
It was like 6 city hall employees. That was it.
I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with City of Wyoming, what they have for operations, but one thing that I do know that a way to have less staff is to go with more contracted services. I know our city has weighed out pros and cons. For example, it was looked at a few years ago to sub out or contract out payroll instead of having a staff person do payroll. Utility billing is also a common one that they sub out. They don't do in-house. That takes a full-time position. Building official is also another one that oftentimes can be contracted out. So without looking into it, I'm not sure, but that is some ways to cut staff.
Some of those we weighed our pros and cons with, and I think we found it efficient for building official was one of them. I was just kept seeing that, and I was like, how are they doing it?
Could some of it be a county, like maybe they say, county, you can plow our roads and you can do our police work and,
It's possible. I mean, they are a little closer to the metro.
Wyoming has their
I
own
mean,
police department, so.
Well, I'm
there's
just,
that.
oh, I don't
And
know,
they
I'm
have
just
their
But
own
they do,
works.
there's a lot of cities that contract to the county.
For-
Hanover, for example, Ham
police-
Lake.
For police.
Wyoming has their own public works, do they not, Matt?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do.
I would assume so, I guess I'm not sure.
I just pay attention to what I say to
There's,
you. That's-
there's,
Also, if they're close to the metro, they may not have their own water and wastewater facilities. Sometimes
Could
that
be.
goes to the Met Council, bigger cities, it just gets, through a main inline pipe.
I think I've said it before, that's rural cities, as the city folk would call us. That I pay attention to everybody around us, and when I saw that, I was like, how are they even, and they're doing great with, maybe it was 6 to 9, but it's 6 or 9, but how are they I don't know, it floored me. Anywho, let's move on. J, goal-setting discussion items and staff supporting documentation.
So before we get to that, Mayor, if we would turn our attention to the screen that I've shared. I know it's kind of small. I also have it printed off before it laid at your spot. One thing that I did this year is, each year I try to do something a little bit different. Every few years we go through, we do staff presentations. This year what I've done is I've taken a collection of looking at our main objectives of what we do here in the city, and I put together basically this chart here, so it can help staff to know how to prioritize as we're working on tasks for the council. So I'd like to go through this, and you can let me know if you agree or don't agree, or if you'd like something changed, but I thought that this would be a great tool that we can continue to use this year, but going forward.
Before you go on, Ms. Wood, I just want the record to reflect Councilman Gordon is present.
So
Sorry.
as guiding principles, I chose what I thought would be applicable would be 6 different categories: organizational health, legal, fiscal management, quality of life, community development, and public services. Starting at the top for legal, we have legislative obligations that we must uphold, state statutes that we do follow very closely. We have continuous review of policies and practices, and this is to make sure we are giving the utmost service that we can and making sure we are abiding by the laws that we need to. And giving transparency to everybody, whether it be residents, businesses, council staff, being as open and clear as we can and having great communication. For organizational health, we have employee development and wellness. Again, good, clear communication, making sure that everyone understands why we are here as staff and what we're achieving. Attract and retain quality employees. That is huge to the criticalness of providing the best service to our residents, making sure that we keep the good employees that we have, and when we do need to find new employees, just because things do change or we do grow, we want to make sure that we are attracting that great talent that's out there, and it is competitive. Competitiveness is huge from surrounding cities, but people are willing to drive and they're willing to work in other areas, so we need to be competitive not just locally but regionally. Promoting city mission, vision, and value statements. I did have this on that top memo within our packet. So making sure that, again, our great staff knows where we are and where we're going and what we're here to achieve. Public services, which includes the police and it includes public works, providing high level of service in public works and police, protecting people, property, and businesses, being proactive for a growing community, and emergency management. We don't want to be complacent and we don't want to take for granted when things are going well, because things can change drastically. We can have things such as storms or bad emergency situations, and we always need to be ready. We always hope for the best, but we plan for the worst, just to make sure we are there for our residents and they know it. Community development. We want to have strong business partnerships, thoughtful planning and development as we continue to grow our great city, monitor economic conditions, and commercial industrial growth, which we want to encourage, facilitate, and again, attract and retain. For quality of life of our residents, we want to make sure that we're having good community engagement, promote and enhance livability. There are many standards to livability, and we want to make sure that we are always looking at those to make sure as people come and move to our great city that we are having things for them. Being a community for generations, living by our motto and making sure that we are not catering towards one group, but all of the groups that live here. Maintain a community amenities. It is great when we add things that we find is best for our city, but we also want to make sure, and I think we do this very well, and we hear Mike echoing from afar, that it's with our great planned capital improvement that we can continue to those amenities to be strong, replaced when they need to be, and in good working order. It's not great if we're adding things, but we have no way to sustain that. We want to make sure we're sustainable. And then lastly, I'll end with fiscal management. The council has shown directives and initiatives to be debt-free. We want to make sure that we are not bonding for projects that if we can't afford them, we can't afford them. Identify and fully fund those capital needs, as I had just shared. Steady decreasing tax rate. Again, what Mike says, no double-digit increases or decreases, to make sure that we are being sustainable and predictable for our residents. And then lastly, provide quality services that reflect community values, supported by the available resources that we have.
Well, heck, that sounds like us.
Thank you, good job. Did you put this together yourself? That's very impressive.
Yes, I did.
Everybody knows how I like bars and graphs and things.
I do too.
That's awesome.
If there are any that you would like to change or add to, this is my language, taking the principles that the council has shared, even more so than even a year over the years. So if there's anything you'd like to see different or changed or whatever, please do reach out, whether it's tonight or going forward. I think that this is great, that we can share as department heads with our staff, that this is why we're here and what we work towards overall.
So I didn't hear parks in here. Is that is that going to public service?
Parks would fall under quality of life, giving amenities to our community members.
Okay.
It's also within that promote and enhance livability. That's having safe pedestrian walkways, whether it's connectivity of paths to bike, things like that too.
So when I look under the staffing thing, do parks and public works fall together? They just fall under two of these spots here?
Public works would be public services, parks would be quality of life.
No, I get that. I want to know, do public works, does parks fall under public works?
They maintain them.
Okay.
Public Works doesn't maintain the parks. When it comes to community events and programming, that will be under the community development now.
Okay.
Or Miss Olson, she plans a lot of that. Fun activities. I missed movie night, I was so mad.
I was hoping she could do a little entertainment today, maybe do some flips up there.
Well, she's entertaining, but not that entertaining.
You don't know.
I think she'd do karate.
She'll take care of both of us at once.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's move on to the items. The number one was the dynamic sign.
Mayor and council, before we get started, I do want to point out that the information provided in this memo here from staff is a collection of staff's thoughts, ideas. It is not to persuade or to give the impression that that is a direction necessarily, just for information and background. So I wanted to say that first. And part of number one, we will also add in dynamic sign will be liquor store signage, because that was a request too. And if there are any items that are not on this list that council would like to discuss, we will add those in as well.
Is it silly to add a liquor store and a dynamic sign like together? Is that silly? Is that heard of? Do we not want to do that?
I've
Booze
seen it,
and
I've seen
city?
it done before
I've seen it done too, that's why I asked.
with liquor
It's a-
stores.
Interesting thing, I'm gonna let Stephanie Hilsheim talk about that, because there are maybe some regulations that we might have to follow, so.
Aha.
According to MnDOT and their trunk highway right-of-way restrictions, doesn't seem like that's a possibility in their right-of-way. Other cities who possibly own land on a city street or a county right-of-way could definitely do that because the restrictions are different. But according to MnDOT, there's no advertising on a community identification sign, except for nonprofits, schools, those sorts of things. It looks to me, in my review of all of the information from state statute, is that any advertisement needs to be on site in the location of the business along the highway. So we wouldn't be able to just put a community sign with a liquor store advertising on it.
But we could still, I mean, I think
That-
our direction was just putting the liquor store sign,
On 65 there.
yeah, on 65 where the church is building. Is that
And that
feasible?
includes government entities?
Because the liquor store is for-profit, it doesn't generally fall under the same guidelines.
Can you
as-
tell me how close that's got to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, go ahead.
I'm not sure exactly the exact location or proximity to the business, but I would think it would have to be at least
Yeah.
on the corner of the church would be where the liquor store, and that could be, off-premise signage is a hard thing to,
What's the, this, what do you say, the state right away?
yeah, it's the state right of way on
How far
Highway
is that?
65.
So I would assume in like go in the center of 65 so far into the shoulder. How far is that into the shoulder?
Do you know, Jason?
Anyone?
I guess our GS has the landmark here. I mean, in general, it's the backside of kind of what the ditch is out there, you know?
Yeah.
Before those parking lots for Colborns and things starts, that's kind of where the right-of-way line is, so the top couldn't be out of the right-of-way, but on the private property.
Guess, Jason, you've been spot on in every guess you've
Well,
made,
basically, you know, the Colborn sign, you know,
Yeah.
is on their property.
which is
Uh,
60 feet?
While you're looking that up, I have a question. So, what's the bank south of Community Pride Bank, or they call it Falcon National Bank, whatever that bank is, I forget the name of it,
Flagship?
Flagship. They have on their sign,
It's nonprofit.
It's
a bank.
nonprofit.
Prairie Cottages is nonprofit.
some
Well, they're
consider-
No, the bank
nonprofit.
is,
Is a credit.
Well, but what I'm saying is they have on their sign Prairie Cottages.
but that's the bank's property, the bank's sign.
And they're nonprofit on top of that.
The bank is nonprofit?
Yeah.
That seems like a farce.
I'm not disagreeing, Paul.
One thing we did look into, and it might be something that we look into again, is to put our liquor store sign and share the pedestal standing sign with Colburn's. We initially started out with that, thought we might get some traction, but I am not sure if that regional manager who we were talking about is still there. It really led to a dead end. So there are some possibilities, but it just didn't seem feasible with them.
How about the auto parts store? They have a sign too.
And we had reached out to them when Ms. Sullivan was still here, so probably a couple months ago, she reached out to them, and they said, let us run it up the line and see, and we never heard back.
So those are possibilities anyway.
And in Princeton, we did have, they did allow Dairy Queen on the Coburn sign along Warm River Drive in a similar way that we would be requesting here for the liquor store.
Do you want to take a guess at that yet, or?
Sure, so it looks like it's, somewhere in the 60 to 75 feet from the pavement edge would be where the right-of-way generally is. 100 to 125 feet from center line.
I know, like up by Northland Landscaping along that stretch, it's pretty much where the power poles are.
Yep.
It's, I mean, within inches.
Which is
where
about that,
the
right?
Power poles are.
It's
Yep.
about 60, 75 feet where the
Yeah, it
power
looks
poles
like
are.
they're about on the right-of-way line.
Maybe they'd let us go on that south sign and we'd offer to update their landscaping, because the landscaping isn't according to the
What?
new ordinance.
I'm sure that when they build that church, they're gonna clear those trees.
Is that sarcasm?
So that corner will be,
To be honest, we
Pretty
have not,
open.
we did reach out previously to, or we reached out to the previous owners of that property, which were the 4 siblings, if I recall. The people who New Hope has purchased, if they did in fact purchase it already. And we didn't get any traction there. We have not reached out to New Hope Church to see if they'd be interested in either giving us an easement or purchasing a corner yet.
I'm pretty confident they'll work with us.
No, I would say, I would be surprised if they did work with us. I think
I
that's,
was gonna say,
I don't think, I don't even think I'd approach them. I think that would be, put them in quite a bind.
yeah, you think the church wants to put a liquor store sign in their on their
They
property?
don't have to say
Why
it's
not?
theirs, and why not?
you're saying people go to church,
Say it.
don't go to liquor stores?
No, I'm not
I'm
saying
not
that
saying
at all.
that.
I'm just saying they're
You
trying
go
to
to church and
maintain-
drink the blood of Christ, what do you think that is?
I'm not saying that at all, I'm
It's
just
not an
saying.
adult bookstore, it's just a
No,
liquor
I know,
store.
I'm just saying. I'm just
Well,
throwing
go
it
ahead,
out there.
okay, go ahead, approach them, but I'm saying I would think,
The worst they're gonna tell us is no.
no, that's fine. I'm just saying, I wouldn't even want to give them the opportunity to say no, but that's,
I agree with you.
I'm just one voice.
I agree with you, Paul. I think that there's no reason we need to put them in that kind of a situation where they have to answer that question. I agree with you.
Yeah. But
If
have-
we are not able to put the 2 signs together, a dynamic sign with the liquor advertisements on there, to follow a rule, if there was a rule, and we'll dig further into that to determine, is council interested in having a dynamic sign, not with liquor advertisements, like for community billboard purposes? We brought this information back, or to council last year.
What was that
I'm not sure
cost
cost
again?
now. We're gonna throw out about $80,000 to $100,000. Some cities that we looked into, for example, Princeton, they've partnered with school districts, other community education or chambers to get that cost down. But we did not pursue that any farther, because one, that is a high cost, and then we are bound by where would we put it.
Which schools went on that Princeton, what did you say, Princeton? Which
Yep.
schools went on that?
Just the Princeton Public School.
No, but I mean, was it mostly the high school, mostly the middle school, mostly the?
I think they do
The school district,
all
the
of it.
district office manages their advertisements on the sign, and then the city would manage the city
Okay.
advertisements.
If the council would like staff to reach out, there is, we could reach out to property owners south. It could be even outside of city limits. I know that when you get into town, or when you feel like you're getting into town is right around, I say Ready Mix. That's in our Tier 1 property. We have not reached out to anyone outside of city limits for a sign. If that's a direction, we could do so.
I'd like to, rather than a big digital board, at the beginning of the city limits, I'd like to see a nice sign, like decorative stone or whatever. I don't know.
Wasn't Councilman Lundin talking about somebody had one in this community and kept it for their reasons? Do you recall that?
He did say something about that. I don't
He didn't know
remember.
if they still had it or not. Councilman Lundin knows somebody that has a stone sign for the city.
Well, I believe one of the stone signs he was talking about was the other half of this granite that came from Irrigation Construction is outside City Hall, had the other half of that. Is that what you're talking about?
I think that's what yeah.
It could be. I just remember mentioning it.
Well, I just want to throw something, out, and I don't mean to get off subject, but I think that if we can't get a liquor store sign up by fishing opener, that we consider a billboard. for at least, I think you can do it 3 to 6 months and then get the sign up as well. Just because the reason we went over there was to get people off 65, I think we need to tell them, hey, we're over here now, so.
That billboard right at PM Trust has got nothing on it.
So we reached out to the person who's managing the sign there at P&M Trust. Outside of the fact that, maybe Keith, you'd like to speak on this, outside of just the fact of them having a leasee on that billboard, we did reach out to find out if we could put another billboard up on their property, because they did seem open. And MnDOT has regulations on how far of directional billboard signs, so an off-premise sign, which ours would be considered off-premise. Their sign is premise to them. They have rules on that, and it didn't fit within adding another one before or after their sign. But Keith, do you know where we're at with?
Well, what I can comment on is I reached out to P&M Trust before the store opened, in regards to taking that billboard over, and I was told that, you know, the people that had it probably weren't gonna renew, and the gal that I talked to was gonna check into it. When I checked back with her, she told me that, the owner wasn't real excited about letting us have the billboard because the general contractors didn't use P&M Trusses for the liquor store, so they were upset about that. I explained to them that, you know, as a general contractor, we didn't make that decision, but that's as far as I was able to.
That's what P&M Trust said?
Well, then tell them to charge us more, I guess. I mean, who has it now? Is that that Roach, golf cart or
Or is it
something?
Randy at PM Trust?
I think it's Randy, yeah. think
I
it's
know
or
Randy,
or
so does
something,
Steve.
But I don't remember the name. It's been a few months since I've talked.
There's a
to
gal
them.
there too. What is
Yep.
that gal's name?
That's who I was talking to.
Yeah.
It's Lenora or
Lenora, that's it.
Leora or something.
Leora, that's it, that's better yet.
Yep.
I've studied billboards a little bit, but you probably know more than I do. It sounds like you've studied more recently. What is the ideal range? I mean, I was thinking 3 to 5 miles to give people a chance to warm up and say, oh, here comes the liquor store.
We need to warm up real good. Let's stop by there.
So as far as advertising, I looked into that quite extensively before the new store opened. Number one, it's hard to get the billboard companies to get back to you, whether you email them, whether you call. You know, a lot of them get back to you. And what we're looking for ideally is billboards facing south, you know, coming north.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's hard to find ones that are where you want them. The ones that did contact me back were, you know, hey, we got them going that way, heading south, and that doesn't do us any good. One thing we did do is I did do some Google advertising, like geofencing to target like people that would be searching for liquor stores like south of us, like, you know, Ham Lake, kind of a big circle around there. Some people are starting to head north and looking for us. But ideally, I think, in my personal opinion, if we could get that P&M Trust one, that would be a really great location, because that's, you know, gives people long enough to figure out, hey, that's where we're gonna stop. Either that or even a little farther south would be ideal.
What's the one that we use for the rodeo? Is that,
We put that one on Isani Ready Mix, their property, and they don't have one. It's just a rollout.
no, we had a
It's like a
billboard.
shared one. It had
It
half
had
rodeo, half.
Coors Light, the rodeo, and there's something else. But,
I know that previously, our municipal liquor store did share a billboard back
Yeah.
years back. I'm not sure when that ended though.
but yeah, it was like with the rodeo association and the liquor store.
I think it shares with the retail meats. I think it shared with them. It was a half of the billboard with retail meats, I think.
And now Retail Meats has a whole billboard.
I don't know.
Well, maybe it's half. I do see the Retail Meats, I pay attention to that. Then they have the antique place has a billboard way down, it's like 7 miles away. I've noticed that one too. I don't know why I'm paying attention to billboards lately, but
I don't either.
that one, and I'm not gonna say or promise anything, but I got good rapport with Randy and Lenore, and so does Steve, so we'll see what we can talk to them. I'll throw you under the bus, Keith.
Any help we can get, man. Be nice to get a billboard.
Good
What
for
if,
them, though.
what if we had
putting
one
their
of those
2 cents in.
temporary
That's-
trailer ones
Yeah.
I like it,
I can respect that.
yeah.
for, you
But it
know,
wasn't our
Yeah, I
choice.
don't think we could, I don't think we
if,
were actually
you know,
allowed to even.
something to look in, if
pick
I
and
send you
choose
ready
local
mix, would
people,
park
right?
one there.
No,
If I
or,
remember
I
right.
know.
Something temporary, maybe for 3 to 6 months till we figure something out. I mean, something. I don't know.
We hired that general contractor, Councilman Gordon, and they picked and
Well,
chose,
right.
not us. But we
Yeah.
did make it a point that
But
we
we-
wanted local people
I know we
as
asked
much
about
as
that at the
possible.
time, but I don't think we were
Councilmember
allowed to.
Holston, are you talking about like the black signs, like the temporary signs like?
Yeah, they're on a trailer.
Yeah, I don't believe that's permitted with our sign ordinance currently.
Sure, MinDOT
Outside of
kiboshes
city
that, too.
limits.
Well, maybe, outside city limits.
Can we hire somebody to stand on the highway?
One of those signs.
But I mean, they park one for the rodeo at
We can get
Isani
one of
Ready
those guys,
Minutes,
those guys.
so. But yeah,
police chief will
it
be
doesn't have to
visiting
be,
that
you know,
guy.
the big.
The black sign has to be
pink and-
grandfathered in. I think you're right about that.
Kilometers.
So if you've had one, then you can keep having it, but, yeah.
Chief, you looking for a part-time job? We can just put your police car out there, light it up, you can hold the sign, spin it. No? Yeah? Just trying to help you make more money, chief.
We could drive this.
So for the sake of time, on this item, the direction for staff is to potentially reach out south of city limits for a temporary sign for advertisement, continue to reach out for a billboard for the liquor store.
I think Paul's right. The billboard would be a good idea if we can't get a dynamic sign. But I don't think we should give up on our,
Oh, no, I don't, I
It
agree
doesn't-
with that.
on any of
I
it.
think
Yeah,
eventually
we
we'll get one out there, but
Still, yeah, it doesn't have to be a dynamic sign out there if
It
we
would be
can't do
nice,
that,
but it doesn't have
but-
to be.
Right.
Would council be open to, if there was the ability to have a dynamic sign outside city limits, if that was an option with the property owner? Is that something you want staff to pursue?
How far, I guess I would ask.
According to MinDOT, we can have it up to 2 miles away from the city for a city dynamic.
Isn't it amazing?
Can-
Is this being recorded right now? The state ties their hands quite often.
well, it's 65 is their highway. I
Right.
think that's the deal. Can you tell me how far, 2 miles, so what's that down to about, that's not as far down as Green Barn, is it? Green Barn's further than 2 miles, right? So we're talking north of
That's
Green Barn?
3 miles, right? 3 miles?
Well, she
would you
said
say?
2 miles, she said 2
Yeah,
miles.
Green Barn's about 3, I think.
Yeah, Green Barn's about 3.
So we're talking closer than Green Barn.
I wouldn't even be able to, 2 miles, what
But just-
landmark could you hit? Is that Christmas Tree Farm 2 miles? On
Is
your-
that 55? Yes, that's,
On
I
the
think,
west
that-
side of,
Pinestead
yeah,
or Rudolph's?
no, Rudolph's, it's Rudolph's on your west side there, but they got cool flaming lights right now, I love those lights. I almost wanna
isn't
put
that
them out.
55? That's
Almost.
55, right?
56? Which
No,
one?
56 is down by Green Barn. 50, is that 55, chief?
How far, oh, it's that close? Oh,
That's the same street that, what's the dollar store, the Dollar General is on.
County Road 9 is approximately 2
no, no,
miles.
no, no, not that one, Paul, the one that's further down. There's like.
County Road
already
9,
trees there.
actually, that corner, actually, that'd be a great spot for one.
That's 2 miles
I'm
from the
telling you,
liquor
that's
store.
55 right
2
there.
miles from the
Right.
liquor store.
County Road 9 is 2 miles from the liquor store?
Yeah,
Well,
not
there
from
you
city
go.
limits, but from the liquor store.
There you go, County Road 9.
That corner's open, then northeast corner. I think it's just a field.
So look into options.
There's no-
Staff
Yep,
will
look
into
into options, all
south
kinds of
city
options.
limits.
Absolutely.
And then we'll also look into the ability of having a sign that can be for community as well as liquor. We'll look into that further as well.
Well, you had mentioned that other communities have had schools and different places pitch in for stuff like that, so I wouldn't be interested in spending 80 to 100 or something on our own. I mean, if it's a portion of that, I would be okay with it, but I think that would be a big thing to try to, if we're gonna do it, to try to get some other people to
We could
contribute.
always blast
Some-
their business too.
Yeah,
Some of that can come out of the, like, liquor store marketing budget, too.
Yeah, that's true.
We will look into that as well as a shared sign. I know, like the chamber, we can reach out to, as
Yep.
well as the school
Well, I guess
district.
not
I'm
the
with
dynamic
Jimmy on
sign.
that one though,
Right. The dynamic sign we can't do the two,
It's still.
well, that's if it's in the
If
right
it's
of
2
way.
miles away, we can.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Even if it's on the right of way of
Yeah.
the highway?
Well, it can't be in the right of way,
Right.
but
it's gotta
Yeah.
be that MinDOT. The hand tires.
So we will look into this and with this direction and bring it back to COW at an upcoming COW when we have more information.
Thank you.
Awesome. Moving on to 2, employee retention. This was my item. So, if you guys remember, Dan, you running for me already?
No, I'm running to the back.
All right, hurry back. I miss you already.
Oh, thanks.
So back in November,
Nicest thing anyone said to me all day.
you guys recall that we had a discussion on the pay study. So I'm going to hand both of you these. And I mirrored, Ms. Wood, I can give you a copy of this if you'd like one. Back in November, we had that study done on the pay study, and I literally went through that whole entire meeting and listened to it again, because we didn't involve Public Works or police in that study. I think we might have misdirected that study, and that was agreed upon in this council. In that study, Miss Davis, I believe was her name, that's what I caught. Josie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That study showed that the city was 9% below minimum pay and 14% below maximum pay for Metro. 3% below minimum pay and 8% below maximum pay for outstate. Ms. Davis also stated 2 times that anyone in collective bargaining agreement is not and cannot be included in that step and grade study. I actually said in that meeting I was huge on retention. Ms. Wood said the city is not competitive for people to come and stay. Councilman Lundin said that people use this as a stepping stone and they move on. Hopefully you guys remember some of this. I didn't even remember myself saying it till I heard it.
I'm sure Councilman Lundin and Councilman Collison and myself, you know, we went through a lot of staffing changes there.
Yeah, and absolutely, you guys have been here the longest, so I'm sure you have. Ms. Wood also said the city needs better pay to retain and recruit staff. I stated everyone was underpaid even in that meeting. And everyone was everyone. The city lost a lot of staff to North Metro. Ms. Wood made that comment. I myself, again, city has to come close to pay or better to keep employees. Councilman Lundin said a 3% increase across the board, it would be worth it to keep staff. Councilman Collison actually spoke up and said that contracts state the minimum pay, not the maximum pay. The city can pay more than the contract without opening contracts. The city doesn't have to wait until the end of the contract, have to do an increase across the board. Mr. Becker stated there was plenty of room to spare, and Ms. Wood said pay increases in numbers do not include unions. With that being said, I started to dig in, of course, because I know how to dig into the police departments, and this whole packet is people that are around us, that are south of us. I know the comment was made that money isn't everything, but if you look at some of these numbers, as much as I love the city of Isani, did you get yours? Oh, did you get yours there? I feel like I forgot somebody. Oh, Lundin, he's not here, that's why. Willie is here. I love the city of Isani, but for some of these numbers, I'd be going. I don't think we're staying, and what's crazy is Public Works mirrored the police. North Branch right now is offering Public Works and people crazy amounts to go to work for them. They couldn't get anybody, so they crazied it more. There's other cities throughout the state of Minnesota that is offering, they throw their bait and their bobber in the water, and if nobody bites, they come out with craziness. I mean, right now it's, and Ms. Wood, you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but our union people got their union raises, but they didn't get any other raise besides that, correct?
During the 2020, for implementation of 2021 budget, union employees did not get any raises per the comp study. Previously, though, in earlier contracts, they had some market rate adjustment, but no, not as part of the comp and wage study. It was encouraged by our attorney to not open union negotiations until contract time, negotiation time.
Which again, Councilman Collison did make the statement in that meeting that,
That's just the minimum pay. You can, like, oh, Patrick, you're doing great work, we want to give you a quarter raise. You don't have to open up a contract to do that. As long as you're paying them what the contract says, that'd be the minimum.
All I know is best practice by our city attorney. It said that it should be done during union negotiations to adjust any pay. Because they've already, it's a collective, the bargaining agreement is set. That's what each party was agreed to. Now, could you open them theoretically? Yes, but that wouldn't be best practice.
MOU it and reopen it, but you could wait. So my point is I'll be honest with you, I'm worried about public works and I'm worried about police. We've lost, since our meeting in November, we've lost a cop. And I'm scared we're gonna lose public works, or even more cops at that matter. I think public works is in the same boat. I mean, there was 5 years ago when I moved to this city, there was 4 things I checked on my list. And it literally went in the order that I'm gonna say it. I checked police, I checked fire, I checked public works, and then I checked school systems. And all those were either great in my mind or, it can be possible. We could work with a city, we can help it out. I never thought I'd be in the seat, but it's fixable. We'll say it that way. So I was like, you know what, we're moving to it. Plus I did get a good price on my house, I won't lie. So we moved to Isani. In that process, I think Public Works does a fantastic job. I'm not knocking Public Works, but I will be the first to say I admit they're underpaid. The police, they do a fantastic job, but they're underpaid. So we did our study in November, and this council asked for that study, and I think we should have done the study across the board.
I thought that's what it was supposed to be.
I think we did, but we discluded union people, right?
The study did take into account all employees, but basically looking at all the different job descriptions is how it was entailed, and reviewed all those. And if you remember, and I have them in front of me, but we didn't make copies, but we could. The market rate analysis, there were both. It was statewide and also Metro and Central Minnesota as we looked at comparatives. All job descriptions were reviewed for comparables.
And I looked at that and I should have brought it with.
The union positions were not implemented because it's outside of their contract term.
When's their contract up for either department, police, or?
Both of them are up. We'll start discussions this July to be effective for a contract in January of 2023.
2023? Okay.
But discussions, typically they start in July.
That's a whole year away. That scares me even more. We lost a great cop. I'm afraid to lose a great public works or even more great cops. But we did lose, since that November meeting, I did mention to all of us that we don't do something, we're gonna start losing cops, and lo and behold, we did. And now I'm saying if we don't do something, we're gonna lose more cops or public works people. I'm telling you, every one of these, North Branch, great public works job opportunities right now.
I'm not saying pay isn't important, but is that why the police officer left, was because of pay?
You'd have to ask the chief that question.
Is he allowed to say that?
Speak freely.
Well, it's difficult to come up with that, but there was a few factors, but that was his significant factor, yes.
Does he also live in North Branch, though, too?
Yep, so he lived in North Branch.
So,
I think for him it was around a $9 pay increase just to go there, so it's $18,000, $20,000.
and they had some other ridiculous things I read on there too, like a take-home car. Your administration, like the chief and lieutenant, I can see a take-home car, but why in the heck would we ever give take-home cars to our cops?
Well, we
North
can't.
Branch did it, but why would we?
Because they share cars.
Who does? Our cops do, yeah.
So they
But I'm
can't
saying,
take them home.
yeah, why would we, that'd be crazy we ever did that.
That's, actually, it's really nice for the community.
And I'm not gonna,
But you gotta
there's
be able to
pros and
afford-
cons, is my point, Dan.
It's all pros. The only con is the cost.
That's a big pro, or a big con,
Yep,
to a city.
yep.
Their benefits, they paid 100% of their benefits, but then we do their HSA. So kinda, evens that out. The other thing was the pay. The pay is crazy. I mean, in any city you look in that I've listed, and there was, I'm not gonna say every city, but I know North Branch, their public works is hiring right now. Maple Grove is hiring, right now.
So do you have a proposal?
We gotta do something.
Okay. So,
And I'm looking for your direction. We're the council, we asked for that study, the study was done, but
so
we
we know,
excluded
so
the
we know
unions.
by these other cities that we're paying under these cities.
A lot of these cities can't really compare to Isani because of the population size.
Well, like the city, like St. Anthony Village, that type of thing. Are there any, and I'm not saying I'm not willing to pay, I'm just want to know where we sit. Does anyone know, Ms. Woods or the mayor? Are we paying over anybody?
So what staff looked at, to try to prepare for this discussion item was we looked at, I'm not sure if we have all the cities on the handout that the mayor gave. We looked at data that is supplied by the city. Ms. Brooks, or Ms. Grady has access to a league website that has all the cities' reports so we can share information to see. And Mr. Becker did crunch all these numbers to see where we are at within certain criteria groups of cities. What he did look at though, he measured it both ways, one by looking at our straight wage, but also another way of looking at our wage and our HSA contribution, because not every city does that. And the tricky thing with this, without putting together a very complex matrix, is some cities pay differently. Some do a straight pay, some have a pay plus additives, some have a pay plus shift differential, some have where they don't provide good benefits, some do. So there's a lot of variables, but just looking at what was reported by cities and then against our wage and wage with HSA, in the criteria of, or category with the cities of 5,000 to 10,000 population, we ranked between 3 and 4 on the scale of all the different cities that he looked at, which he looked at.
I don't know what between 3 and 4. So how many cities?
So in
How many-
competitiveness against the whole state of Minnesota of
Okay.
cities in the
Okay.
population
Okay.
category that we're in, we rank the 4th competitiveness of
Okay.
paying, which one being the highest.
Okay.
That's with HSA. If you take away the HSA contribution that we give to staff, we rank around the 12th spot. And these are all just cities in Minnesota that are between 5,000 and 10,000 population. Now,
And how many
North Branch,
spots is that? How many spots is that?
I believe that there are about 50.
Okay.
Now, in North Branch is 11,000 population, so they're not in that category. They're looking at a category between 5,000 and 15,000. With our wage, with HSA contribution added in, we rank around 8th, one being the best, so to say, or the best competitiveness. And then with just our straight wage, not looking at HSA, we rank about 26th. So lower definitely when you get into those larger metro cities. But also this data depends, and I will share, having done a compensation study for Public Works in the past, it also depends on what their position is and what are additives. We can get into Public Works separately if you'd like, because they have licensors and they get paid differently. They don't get reported the same.
So let me ask you this, Ms. Grady. The last Public Works employee that we hired, who was that? Do you remember, Matt?
Was it Brandon Brown?
I think that was Nate.
It was Nate. Nate or Brandon?
It was Nate? Okay. How many job applicants did we have for Nate's position?
They've all been here for, we haven't hired anyone in Public Works in almost 2 years. I don't, off the top
Do you
of my head,
recall?
I
Just
don't
a
recall.
guesstimate, not, nothing?
For the maintenance tech positions, I want to say we usually got around 20 some apps. That's just a rough number.
When we hired Officer Lawson, how many applicants did we get, Chief?
I don't recall which step he was in. We were either right around 40 or mid-50s.
Would you say that was right, Ms. Grady? How many did we get now that Officer Lawson's gone?
7. But at the time was when there was a lot of political changes down in the metro going on, and there was a lot of officers applying. Right now, there's a lot of places hiring, and not a lot of officers applying, so there's a lot.
So you wouldn't say it would be fair to say we're not competitive and that's why they're not coming?
No, it's just a shift
I think, yeah,
in the
there's,
job market itself.
talking to other communities right now, there's a lot of people struggling to get applicants for police officers. It's not just us.
Or even Public Works, that only 20? Is that right? I mean,
That, well, they'd said, I know,
I feel like it should be like 50.
So, for example, Ms. Hillstein, at her last place that she came from, they had like 4
I think.
For what? Public Works or police?
for her position.
Oh, for your position? Yeah.
Well, your recent hire, how many did we have for your position? I know, maybe you don't know, maybe I should be asking. What's her last name?
I cannot pronounce her last name. I will hack it all up. So just call her Steph.
No, I mean the one sitting next to her, Katie.
Grady.
Grady.
Yeah, for Stephanie's position, I want to say it was 12 or under. So, our applicant pools are just really low right now for most positions, even for liquor.
And that's common everywhere, right? I mean, that's one of the biggest issues in economic development is the workforce, so.
A lot of people shifted their careers during COVID.
One thing that became apparent to me, though, in going through the data and the information, and this holds true to what we had shared when we did the compensation study, even though they were reviewed, but not all got raises, if it wasn't necessarily warranted, or if they were in a union position, is that we are not as competitive metro-wise as we are statewide. So we look at other cities, we take into account cities like Mora and Bram, smaller, more north than us or more south than us, but we are not metro competitive. I would say that's a broad statement to make, but overall, council did not say that we wanted to be competitive with the metro. We still are on the cusp of being in between. I think that people, especially from what I've seen, working from home and that shift in the workplace of working from home, people are used to that metro pay, but not living in the metro. That becomes a paradigm shift too. But I would say for outer skirt cities, I would say we're pretty competitive. And it does come down to making sure we're offering other benefits as well. I think that's important.
Which
That
are,
was-
go ahead.
Well, that was my question, was on, when you were telling us kind of those rankings, I mean, we were 4th out of the cities that are 5 to 10,000 population-wise. I mean, how many cities are in that group? I mean, we're talking hundreds probably? I mean,
I thought she said
I
50.
think that were reported was about 50.
About
This
50?
other one, let's see, well, 69.
69, okay. So 4th out of 69. And 5 to,
I didn't bring the second sheet of that one, but on the other one, I would say it's probably close to the same. I couldn't be able to say 100%, but
on
somewhere in that
the
range.
5 to 50, the 5 to 15 is somewhere around that too. So I mean, to be 4th and to be 8th place out of those, and to have, I mean, to me, the number of people that you guys are having apply for these positions is, to me, that seems just fine. I mean, I know it's lower maybe than it has been, but I mean, it's not, that's not horrible. I wouldn't say that's a crisis right there either.
One thing, the wages are posted.
So when they apply, they know
They
what
already
the
know
wages are, right?
what the wages
Yeah.
are.
So it's not like they're applying.
So to
and
have that
not
many
knowing.
applicants for a police officer, but it's changed now. So
What does that mean? It's changed now.
less applicants, people are getting out of law enforcement, some are probably not going to school for it. I would imagine the enrollment's down, just because of what's been going on. The bad publicity that good officers get because of 1 or 2 rotten apples kind of thing, I guess. I'm sure, you look at League of Minnesota Cities, there's 20 police officer positions open on a daily basis. Sometimes cities are hiring multiple police officers, and they're on there for months at a time sometimes, because no one's applying. Or if they are applying, maybe they're just not qualified for what they're looking for.
So what do you recommend? Do you have a recommendation? Does staff have a recommendation on this, or?
I mean, some of those departments, I don't know how they would ever hire a police officer with the way that their city councils lack any kind of support for their police departments, you know? I mean,
Not gonna disagree with that.
you know, I mean, there's probably a reason that I wouldn't want to apply at some of those places either, you know? I mean, go there and be treated like that and put in
Which
a
is the
situation
shift
like
that we had 50 before, or 40. We had 40 before is when the city of Minneapolis was pretty much literally burning down. And the council and the chief and the mayor and whomever else in that city wasn't supportive of their cops. We had 40 applicants. We went from 40 to 7. And it's because all these other departments are staying competitive. They're competitive in the job market. And if they don't get bites, then they just get crazy. And I'm not saying we get crazy, but the comment was made in November that, well, money's not everything. Well, we had one go for money.
Yeah, and he
He
lives
was,
there.
he was a younger officer too.
Well, let's hear a proposal, I guess. I mean, Ms. Woods or Mayor Johnson, what do you suggest?
I think we're great. As take-home cars, it would never happen. I would fight you guys till I was blue in the face. I would never give a take-home car, or even dance as a
I love the idea,
beneficiary.
but
I would
just
never
can't,
do it.
it's too costly right now, you know?
Because it costs way too much money.
We just
I'd
vote-
rather pay that cop more money to go out and put his life on the line, or that firefighter. If we had control of our fire department, I'd be fighting for them too. But we
Well, I
have
mean, just-
control over our police and our public works, and both of them, as he just stated, he's been out all weekend plowing streets. So is our guys. And literally, them guys are probably all sleeping right now, because that's where I'd be. And that's where Dan wants to be, but he's gotta be here. So, I mean, to me, it's the public service, as it's better put, as Ms. Wood better put it. The public service entity is important in my mind, whether it's fire, whether it's police, whether it's public works. It's important. And if we're not gonna stay competitive to keep who we got, or stay competitive to go out and bargain to get as good as cops as we feel we have now, or public works at that matter, how do we expect to keep these guys, or how do we expect to go in the job market and stay competitive?
Well, public
And
works.
I'm not saying that we get ridiculous on this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but there's gotta be a halfway point. There's gotta be somewhere where we can meet them and say, hey, we do care, you do know that, because this council's been nothing but supportive to public works or police. But I mean, I went back in that November meeting, and it took me a while, because I couldn't remember the date on what we discussed that study, but I found it, and I literally took notes on that meeting. And I heard what everybody had said in that meeting, and in November, we were supportive of doing something.
So
If we haven't,
Public Works, it's a 3-year contract? Is that what it is?
Yep, and they're on the same
Um,
rotation as our LELS.
Okay.
So
Was it,
January
I will
of
say-
2023 for them too?
Yes.
wasn't it 3, 3, and 3 for
That's
Public
COLA.
Works? Huh?
For cost of living adjustment was 3, 3, and 3.
Yeah, which is higher than anybody got up in this area
And then
for
in
cost of living.
the first year of their contract, so in 2020, they got a 2% market rate adjustment and the 3% COLA.
and we haven't hired anybody in 2 years.
And we haven't hired anyone to.
So I think I don't see why we need to change anything there then.
I will
at the
say
moment.
there are the challenges that we have within Public Works is we're not the only city, but we're a handful of cities that has our technicians do anything from pulling weeds to running and operating the wastewater and water treatment facility. Most of the time you have departmentalization, which we will get to at some stage once we grow bigger, especially when we get a mechanical wastewater facility. So the challenge that we have is, one is it's a little bit more difficult to find people because if they love water and sewer and that technical environmental aspect of that and the science behind that, we're also asking them to shovel asphalt for potholes. they don't always mesh, so it takes a certain kind of person who's looking to have that huge wide variety. In doing so, they have some highly skilled things that they do and duties and some not lesser skilled duties, and that gets washed out with the pay. If we just had, which we will end up having very soon, will be a utility that will be on a different wage scale because they are all of this technical field. So when we compare data, and I've done it before with Public Works actually for that 2020 adjustment, is you can't just take numbers on provided by the city. You have to find out, I need your job description, I need to know exactly what they do, and not just their title and their wage scale. So it's a little bit more intensive to look at. But I will say across the board, definitely for that position, Metro does pay a lot more than the outer Metro. So when you look at that tapes the comparative study that was done in 2020, they are much, much lower if you're looking at Metro data for that position. For those
I know
positions.
a lot of them I've seen too.
So,
Their minimum requirements is 2 years college for a lot of those positions.
A lot of them. Or technical training if they're going for that water, wastewater. We do still have that you can come in, you could be an operator, and there's a will, there's a way, and we're gonna teach you all the way up, and you're gonna get licensed, and you get more money as you get your licenses for water, wastewater, so we do facilitate growth here, but you don't, typically, we haven't seen, nor have we had the positions really open, but we haven't seen people come in with that water, wastewater technical experience. They've gained a lot of it here.
Maybe we need a committee on this.
I
We need a committee on this where the mayor and Josie Woods, do we have a employment retention committee or what, something that would fall under, or?
We don't, and it would have to be a public meeting anyway, so my recommendation was that we could bring it to committee of the whole. I do have information that Mike provided to me, which really depends on what you're looking at. Couple things though. One is if you move pay around for union employees, do know that that does shift as we have people at points and scales, non-union. For example, if you bumped up officer pay to match North Branch, you would then have the officers making the same as a lieutenant, and then the lieutenant, if we bumped him up because he was union, this is all hypothetical, you have the lieutenant making the same wage as the chief.
and I'm not saying,
You know,
I'm
so
not saying
we
that,
do have
Ms.
some
Wood.
trickle effect is all I'm saying, that we would
Yep.
have to look at it, the broad picture of all. One easy way, if you're talking to look at, what would it mean and how would it impact our budget? Which it all comes down to cost of raising taxes or moving around money with taxes, is do you want all of our employees to be more competitive metro-wise?
Do you have an opinion?
What if,
Okay.
I mean, since they'll start negotiations, you said like June, July, whatever, what would just throw in a 1.5% raise across the entire board, then everybody's gonna move the same rate? Until, and then, then you negotiate
More or less, whatever.
whatever. I'm just talking out loud, thinking out loud. That would take care of the pay difference, like between the chief, lieutenant, everything.
And I'm not saying that we get all crazy here and start
That's why I said 1.5%.
mashing North Branch, because they're
1.5%.
outrageous. But their sergeant makes more than our lieutenant, if I recall right, looking at the 2021 budget scale. Or maybe I was looking at 2020.
I don't necessarily understand the police hierarchy of things, but I guess where I'm at with this whole thing is,
Let's not,
someone needs to throw some numbers at us. At this point in time, we're just all speculation.
the chief obviously should
Yeah, absolutely.
make more money than the lieutenant.
Yep.
Lieutenant obviously should make more money than the detective or the patrol officer and so forth.
But it is that way until the
That's the
lieutenant
way
works
it is
overtime, then
anywhere.
he makes more than our chief.
That, because
'Cause of the
he gets
overtime.
time and a half.
Right. So then he outruns our chief.
Chief gets a Tahoe, though. He looks pretty cool in it, too, so.
Well, that's
So
a
we've
But-
lost, since November, we've only lost one officer, right? I mean,
Thank goodness, yes.
okay.
So here, because you asked that, I would look at Matt and I'd look at the chief and say, have you heard talk of people talking about other cities?
I haven't heard anybody in my crew talk about leaving. They all work together, do stuff on the weekends, they get along great. I don't foresee any of my crew going anywhere.
And he's got a horse in the game. I mean, if he was to tell you one thing or another, I mean, he would say, yeah, they want more money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I manage my job too, and they don't tell me everything.
Well, I would
'Cause
say-
they have that fear instilled in them that really you're not fearful. I mean, I don't think, well, I can.
Over the years, if I could, talking about public works and places, because I'm more familiar with hearing some of that, throughout the years, like I said, is what happens and what could happen is that, like, as I said, we have everybody who does everything. When we get someone potentially who has just that passion for water, wastewater, and they want to just do that, it does become much more competitive in public works to go to that water, wastewater field, because as I mentioned, a lot of other cities, North Branch is one of them, Cambridge, cities right around us, they got streets and parks people, and then they have, water, sewer. Sometimes they're separate, sometimes they're the same. But if people find that that's my passion, we can't offer that here, and they would go somewhere else, because those positions are more technical, more skilled, they do pay more. We haven't had that currently, or yet, as a reason for leaving, but there is that with them.
And that's
As
kind
they
of,
get more trained up.
that's kind of out of our hands until the city gets a little bigger and decide it's time to departmentize more.
I'd like to tell them to hold on to 2038, because Mike pushed it out on me again, but hold on tight. That wastewater.
2038?
You don't know, yeah. Don't put me on that year, but it was a lot farther than I had thought for that mechanical plant.
That's only 16 short years.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant before it's, people are departmentalized. I'm like, I hope it ain't that long.
Oh, no, to actually get the mechanical plant, which then
Just the-
really grows
then
that
it will,
department,
yeah.
because you just need more
Hands-on.
hands-on.
Steve texted me. He forgot.
I'm
it
not
was
opposed,
tonight.
I'm not opposed to
Did you forget to?
having better paid, because I think we're close enough to the metro, to at least try and be a little more competitive, you know?
So,
I
I
mean-
guess there's two things, and the chief, I'll ask you the same question. You've heard grumbles of your officers leaving?
Well, you only hear a certain piece of it, but the only thing I'll say to that is, I think my challenge in the next, I won't say how many years that I have left here till I retire, is gonna be the retention and recruitment piece across law enforcement in general. And you can see that the trend is that everybody's talking about the same thing. There's only a handful of candidates out there, and every agency is competitive for them. If you're not at the top of the list, you're not competitive for
So
them.
you're kind of like fighting one another to
It
get
is,
the
yeah.
best candidate.
So,
Back when I started, there was 400 applicants for a job. Now there's 400 jobs for an applicant, so it's a
When I
little
was
bit
post-certified, it was 200 applicants.
But as far as, it's hard to hear if there's things, but I never thought we'd lose the one we did. But that started, there was one other officer in another agency in the county that went there, and that kind of started that, their close community. So they talk about it, and once one went, then he went. So it is a fear I have, and I think it's a good challenge for the rest that we're gonna have as far as recruitment retention.
So and I'm kind of gonna guess your opinion that you don't think there's a problem in public works wages. Is that what you're gonna say, Matt? By saying that your guys don't want to go nowhere? I'm kind of getting that vibe, but I'm gonna ask you.
All I'm saying is my crew enjoys working with each other. They all get along great, and I have never heard any one of them grumble about going someplace else. Do they want more money? I think everybody wants more money, so I'm not gonna say they don't want more money. That'd be silly, but I'm saying
Right.
they all get along, they go out and they all ride dirt bikes, they ride dirt bikes on the weekend, they enjoy the same hobbies. So I think that is a big thing for those guys down there.
And Chief, what would your opinion be? I mean, what's your, I'm sure they're just like Matt's guys, everybody's gonna want more money, but I think it's crazy what these other departments are paying, and I don't see the city ever matching anything here, but we gotta meet somewhere is my.
well, we do have lateral.
Did
I
you
mean,
see
if
the
we're
lateral
fourth,
pay?
if we're fourth out of cities that
Our
are,
lateral pay is,
Capped.
I
We are
think this is
matching,
starting. Here's what,
$3,000 lateral pay.
I know,
Boston
but-
went to start with.
I'd be going to Edina.
when you're looking at comparable
It's a different
cities-
job down there, though, and a lot of people will look at that.
What'd you say?
If I were a police officer, sorry, I'd rather be a police officer here than, say, Bloomington.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
don't-
disagreeing.
I don't care how much more money I'm gonna make. I'm gonna raise my family here and not go to the city of Bloomington. That's just me. I wouldn't do it as a mechanic. I don't. Yeah, I could make a lot more money if I commuted. I don't wanna commute. I like it up this way,
Right.
you know?
And when you look
And-
at cities of comparable size, we're fourth, right? I mean, or if you want to go even a little bigger, we're eighth. So I mean, I think, like you said, I mean, you don't want to go work in Bloomington, or you don't want to go work down there,
Right.
you could make more.
But
you
you're
choose not
gonna
to do
see,
it.
I think you'll see more of that in younger employees
Looking for more of the money.
looking for more money at a younger age, so they can, you know, by the time they do retire, their top 5 is gonna be, you hope, better than that would be here. That's what they're hoping.
I
But-
will add, since you bring up just Metro and being close to Metro, I do have one more. This sheet has just Metro, cities that are defined themselves as Metro regardless of population. And in that one, we rank 49th, if you're talking just Metro.
So,
Out of how many?
what is their technical term?
69.
Where,
Includes the state, though.
what's the
So that
furthest
might be
north?
sheriffs or-
Blaine? Is
Blaine?
Furthest north city is, that's still
That's considered metro?
Metro?
Blaine
Ham
is in the
Lake,
Metro,
Ham
and
Lake.
Blaine ranks 23rd out of the Metro list.
What's anybody north of them considered metro?
St. Francis, is that considered?
Andover?
I don't
Ham
believe
Lake?
St. Francis is on the city's 5K to 10K, and St. Francis ranks 11th. They're not in the Metro.
Of course, Andover is, well,
Oh,
that's
actually, I
Anoka
take it
County,
back.
but
I take it back, they do consider themselves in the Metro.
St.
But they're
Francis?
within that population estimate that has some Metro, some not.
Okay,
Andover's sheriff's office.
yeah. Ham Lake too, Coon Lake, yeah, that's all Anoka County deputies.
I just think that's pretty competitive
I don't
compared to,
see Ham Lake.
you know, our competition that we're dealing with.
Okay, well, we lose more cops, you can answer that.
Well, and if we do, then maybe it'll be time to take a look at making some
I
adjustments.
don't
We said that in November.
wanna
We've
wait.
lost one.
We said it in November.
We've lost one.
And I said, when we lose one, it's gonna be too late. Well, we ain't gonna lose one, so let's not worry about it. Well, look, we lost one.
I never said we'd not lose
Seeing
one.
that, I remember seeing that.
But I'd be willing to go, like you had said, at least figure out maybe a halfway point, or,
It's not like I'm asking for the world here. I just wanna stay competitive in retention.
Well, then come with a proposal.
to this area up here.
If we're not gonna have a
you know,
proposal,
I mean-
we're just shooting the breeze right now then.
Right. And
But I think we're close enough to the metro that, okay, if I'm a police officer, public works employee, and I'm qualified for a job, let's say in Andover, it's a 20-minute commute for me.
Blaine, half hour.
Blaine, whatever, you know? That's not horrible. It's not like I gotta drive down to Spring Lake Park or anything, you know, it's just right down the road for, you know, $3, $4, $5 more an hour, maybe more. I would
Right.
probably do that.
I mean, I'm not saying that I would never be on board with going and raising the pay, but I mean, until there's an issue, until there's an actual problem that we can say, man, we're really having.
What,
When there's an
With this.
issue, it's too late.
Not necessarily.
it's
There's
kind of being
only so many-
proactive.
It's too late.
But there is kind of an issue, because we haven't had a lot of applicants for a lot of jobs.
Well, but neither are
But-
these other places that are paying more, though.
Yeah, I don't
They're
know,
still
it's
having-
hard to
They're
say.
still having problems finding
We
people
had
to fill
12
that position.
applicants for her job and 7 for a cop.
Did we hire one out of those 7? No? Not qualified enough for,
We decided to open it up again for another couple weeks and
So we
if
found
you
1
get
out
it.
of 12 and 0 out of 7.
We haven't interviewed yet for the position because there was a mistake when it was posted on Post Board, so we just put it up until February 10th. So after
For the-
that, we'll start interviewing
for the police officer position? Okay. What was the mistake?
It was posted under Cambridge.
Oops.
We don't know how to
Is that-
spell Isani or what?
So it's like
I'm
this
just giving you a hard time.
position that you're hiring for now, you got 7 candidates that were, well, let's see if we can draw some more to look at.
Yeah,
basically?
I mean, because 7 was so far below what we've dealt with in the past that
Right.
we're not at a loss to open it up for another couple weeks.
So is it, you guys ever consider starting them at third or fourth step
They do
instead of the first step?
with experience, we have
Yeah.
considered that without. But I just looked, I think there's, 58 jobs on the post board. So, again, if you're a candidate, you can pick and choose.
Oh, yeah.
Which ones of the 58. There's never been 58.
I don't have a
police jobs
calculator in this.
listed before, ever.
Well, then
Usually
that's,
it's
go
10.
ahead. That's probably part of it then too, there's more job openings. I mean,
That's a very competitive market where it never has been. The tide has turned the other direction. It used to be the other way around.
we can just see that going around different business, everybody's hiring, you know, come start your career, you know.
$16 an hour for the McDonald's in
Yeah,
town.
so it's a very competitive job market right now.
How do we stay competitive?
We get a proposal in front of us so we can look at it.
How do we retain who we got?
Probably
We
just,
already are.
That's the, that's the question of the hour.
We already are, is the answer to that.
We lost one and one's too many. I don't want to lose Public Works. I don't want to lose any more cops. I don't want to lose anybody in this room. Nobody.
This, in the past 12 months, how many officers have you lost?
Well, we just hired one and then lost the one. Correct?
In a year?
Different position, but yeah.
Okay, but so we've lost one in the last year. So I don't think that's a crisis. And we haven't lost a single public works in 2 years. So I wouldn't say that's a crisis.
So let's react when we start losing them.
Yes.
Great planning, Jimmy.
I don't want to spend anybody's money until we have to. I think that is a good plan.
I think Public Works is, or public safety, whether it's Public Works, police, or fire, there should be no cap on that, because as a resident here, that is my safety, that's my children, that's yours, that's his, and that's his. That's anybody that lives in the city.
I think there's a cap on everything.
And meeting halfway is not a bad thing. I'm not saying pay these guys $10 more an hour, because that's crazy.
That's why I just threw out 1.5% until contracts come up.
I was trying to look in a calculator what 1.5% would be, but
80 cents. Average, maybe, I don't know. It's not huge.
I don't believe we have any officers, with the exception of one of them, that will be hiring at step 1. So it all depends on what step. As the chief had mentioned, we do start at lateral if they have experience, and the recent hires we had were experienced. So the last 4 people were started at approximately step 5.
Out of how many?
recollection.
And that was
8
something
steps?
we changed that, I
6.
think, a year or
6.
2 ago, didn't we? And we allowed that to be, because that used to not be, they used to always have to start at step
That
1.
just
And that's-
started a couple years ago.
Right, and so we changed that, and I think that is why we're so fully staffed now,
And-
right, or close to it now, yeah.
You bring up trying to keep the staff that we have here, you know, and that's a good point. And I've seen other cities add another step or 2. So they see, okay, well, I'm maxed out of my steps. I'm really not getting anything but cost of living, and that can fluctuate, right? You add another step, and that's legality. It's a lot easier to do that than just giving them a 3% raise.
And that's based off of, I mean, if the steps, right, or if you've been here longer, you get, you
Yep,
increase
so,
your step
and that
level,
will
right? So,
keep,
Yeah,
because they can look and say, okay, this is where I'm gonna be in 5 years. Obviously, that won't be the exact number, because the cost of living, you know, will bring that number up. Closer you get to it, it's gonna probably be a little higher, but that's something to consider. Instead of 6 steps, give them 8 steps. So those 2 years, they're getting basically 2 raises, a step increase on their, typically they'll do it on their anniversary date. Some, or the first of the year. It depends, you know, everybody does a little different, but, and then they'll get the cost of living raise on top of that, and that could very well bring them up in 2 steps. That could bring them up to par pretty quick with,
And it's a
Other-
public meeting, so I can
you know,
say,
know.
I could say this, because you could find it, but in a fire meeting recently, we heard what a firefighter was making in the city, and we all laughed. And then we threw out a number to where we think what they should make, and everybody on that board was, why so much? Because they haven't had a raise in this long. Wonder why we're going through fire applicants left and right. Because they're not making crap.
I don't
It's a
know that we're
volunteer
going
fire
through left and
department.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's,
Every time I hear that chief talk, it's, we're gonna hire 6 more,
well, I mean,
7
you
more,
always,
8
you always
more.
gotta keep hiring, yeah, I mean, but that's any kind of.
Because
I,
there's a turnover.
the Isani has, I think they have a, not to get off base, but I think Isani Fire Department has a big turnover because they're that busy. It takes you away from
I
your
wouldn't
family a
take
lot.
that, I wouldn't take that away either, but I mean, if you knew what they made, it's
I do.
ridiculous.
I was on the fire department. I know what they make.
It's
It's volunteer
ridiculous.
fire department.
Yeah. And
I didn't do it for the money.
You do it for free, right? I mean,
Huh?
it's
Yeah.
more.
I didn't
it's
do
more
it for the money.
fun and the camaraderie and.
Serving
that
the
kind of thing.
community.
Yeah, right.
But I wouldn't expect you to run into a burning fire when you could just go work at McDonald's for the same amount.
That's not the same.
That's, no.
I guess you have that passion, I get it. I'm not running into a burning building, I'm just being honest with you. That's why you're good at what you do, because you do it. But I'm the retard that would run at bullets, so,
They also have decent pension for volunteer fire departments.
That's true.
no
Yeah.
offense, chief,
That's what
sorry.
Yeah.
a lot of people stay in it that long to
Yeah,
get
I
that
think-
extra retirement.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is one of the top in the state, I think, as far as pension for volunteer
Yep.
fire departments.
And I wouldn't take that away from me either, because I've heard that discussion as well. The point and the fact of the matter is everybody's given more money to retain, to stay competitive in the job filter, no matter who it is. McDonald's, Public Works, Police, City Hall, Burger King.
Yeah. And they're
And
still,
if
still
we feel
can't
that we're staying.
be
job-
open the
job
hours they want to be.
competitive.
That's the sad part. But that's
I
a
just
totally
think, I
different
think,
market.
I think it being looked into and saying, you know, here's what numbers could, here's what numbers couldn't, here's your pros, here's your cons. I think a little more in-depth over our public works and our police isn't a bad thing.
That's why I think that should look into the steps.
Looking into it, that's all I'm asking.
So just to clarify, is the direction for staff to look into this sooner than later, or do we want to look into this during contract negotiations, which is a recommendation by, I mean, we could look at, I do a lot of preparation work for those negotiations, but do you want that to happen sooner, and how that could potentially impact? I just would caution that if we look at potentially raising the union positions only outside of their union negotiation time, that might get, to be honest, I would consult the attorney, because we don't want to decide anything here at a public meeting, because we can't. We have to sit down at a table and it has to be negotiated upon, so we would be opening up the contract sooner than later, not the recommendation of them. But if you want me to look across the board at metroing all city positions, and they are in there, I mean, just as a whole, and how that impacts the tax rate.
Does everybody have 6 steps? Every full-time employee in the city has 6 steps?
No, it depends on which position. So it was more so true before we did the compensation study. However, that was the matrix that was changed for non-union positions. Not all of them, but most of them went to from 6 to 9 steps. We do have the building official is on 7 steps. The police lieutenant has been on a start and then step 1, 2, technically 3 steps, but worded differently. Same as Public Works, they have a start step, and then they go up 5 years, or 6 months, and then they go up to 5 years. So like 6 or 7, but not. And then the officers have a start step, and then they go up to step 6. So it's a little bit different, depending on the
I'd
position.
like to see that equal across the whole
Across
entire
the
city.
board. So I'm just saying, some things we could.
Because
look into
everybody
some
here is
things.
important. No matter what your job description is, everybody's important. Everybody's like a cog in the wheel. And I think if the maximum steps an employee here gets is 9, I think it should be 9 across the board. That's my opinion.
It would be fair.
Well, I'm in favor of having you look into it, Ms. Woods, and come back. And when are contract negotiations?
They'll start approximately in July, and then it wouldn't be effective, though, whatever was decided typically goes through council shortly thereafter, as long as all parties agree. and then it would become effective January 1st of 2023.
And I don't really think that's fair to put the burden of a contract negotiation on one person, for that one person to come back and either take or give this council's wishes. I think there should be a council representation.
Who's at the negotiations usually?
It was discussed at a committee of the whole, I believe, in 2019.
Yeah.
It's myself, Katie Grotti, and then we have our city attorneys present. We do consult with department heads if there's anything that they think that they would like to see changed or clarified or modified within the contract. We do take their input, however, they should not be at the table for discussions.
What about our union contracts?
That's what
So that's
we're
what I'm talking about.
about.
And then the union has a representative that comes from, whether it's 49ers or LALS, and then each department has a steward. So one gentleman from Public Works and one from the police, well, and then the lieutenant is his own contract, just so you're aware. There's 2 LALS contracts. He's a contract of employee of one, and then the officers are another one.
And the only 2 cities that I didn't see council representation was the city of Isani and the city of Cambridge. Otherwise, the county and every city around us at least had 1 representation, if not 2. I don't think that's fair to put the burden on Ms. Wood.
Well, it sounds like it's also
Yeah, but
Grotti, is that your last name, Ms. Grotti? I'm trying to get,
It's not Brooks.
let's call her Katie.
I could look into the specifics, it's been a while, but I believe we are permitted to have closed sessions for bargaining contract agreement discussions. So all council can be present. We notice it as a public meeting, however, it's closed session. And then all of the council can be privy to it. If we can hold it at committee meetings or we could have a
We do
separate
that
meeting for
after?
negotiation. No, it's during negotiations.
there we go, anybody can show up. I think that's beautiful. I think you
It
should show
should be a
up.
closed session in the council.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yes,
I
you
just-
I have to
just
look
not
into
hear
it.
that?
It's been, we've not done that, but I do, I'll look into it to make sure I'm 100%, but I do believe we can hold closed sessions for contract negotiations. It would be a separate meeting, open to all council members.
I mean, doing a union contract, I think it'd be kind of funny to have Jimmy and I be there as council representation. We're not there to agree or sign anything, but we're bringing it back to the rest of the council members. You're gonna have a different opinion than I'm gonna have, but we're gonna come out equally with the council. We're gonna tell the rest of these guys what really happened, not saying that you're not, don't get me wrong, but that council representation shows importance in that I just feel like that's too much burden on one person to be bringing the council's wishes to or from. I don't know why
Well, I think that's.
I didn't know nothing in 2019, so I can admit that. And I don't think I know it all now, but I just don't think it's fair.
Well, I think that's the solution. Whoever wants to show up from the council. If Jimmy, I appreciate you.
Well, it's got to, if it's just 2 of them, then she doesn't have to put it in the paper. Or,
Even
right?
if it was just one.
Well, she was just saying it would be a closed
If
session.
all of us were here, but it'd still have to be.
If we all show up, you have to put it in the
Advertise.
paper?
Yes, it does meet the open meeting law. If there
Oh,
are
okay.
3 members or more, it does have to be posted as a public meeting,
Yep, that's why I say if there's just,
even though the
2.
meeting would be technically closed to the public, but it
Yeah.
has to be noticed.
but if there's only 2 at negotiations, that doesn't have to be. Correct?
Committee meetings do need to be open to the public, but.
That's a personnel
I'll have to
issue,
look-
though?
I'll have to look into it. I'm not 100%. I've not been asked that question before. For union negotiations separately, I'm not sure.
Something for the council to chew on, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I can find that information, bring it back to committee.
yeah, absolutely. I have nothing wrong with council presence at that meeting, so.
So then at this time, should we hold off on collecting information, or do you want more information brought back to committee as well? For Metro Pay for some or others or all?
I feel
think
like
we
we
should
just
hold
throw a
off
ton of
on-
crap at you guys. That's what I feel like. We don't make a lot of money as council members up here. I don't make a lot of money as mayor, but I'm willing to put, and granted, I'm busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. We'll keep it PG, and Jimmy is too, Paul is too, Dan is too. I mean, we all are, but I think we could just take a little bit more time to put in some of these entities so we're not putting so much If there's any way we could help you, help us, then I want to help you. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So I think, as much as I hate to say it, I'd like you to do all of the above, Josie, because I feel like I'm throwing more on your plate. But that's my opinion.
Info's
I say
always
just
good.
go, I say just tell us when the negotiations are, and everybody comes within their ideas, and we'll hear, I mean, at that meeting, we're gonna hear what the ideas of whoever's negotiating, right? I mean, I'm here thinking, all I wanna do is hear what people's ideas are. You know, I'm not saying I'm for it, against it, or anything, I'm saying,
Right, but
tell me what we're gonna offer, tell me what we're gonna do, and then I can come out and say, okay, I'm for it, I'm against it, or whatever.
That's a lot of burden to put on one person to
I'm not saying she
Bring
has to
them
tell me, I'm
council
saying,
wishes.
my original idea was you form a committee with you and maybe our HR person, and you guys come out with initial negotiation. And now it sounds like we're gonna have a negotiation, so, I mean, I'm willing to show up those negotiations.
They're having negotiations coming up for the ending contract of this year.
Yeah, July, I get that. Those ideas will probably come out during that negotiation, and the council can say, no, we want more, or no, we want less, or no, we're right with you there.
Right, the only point I'm making, Paul, is it's a lot of burden on one person to bring our wishes to that meeting and then bring the resolve items back to this council when we could just be there ourselves.
But that's why I
and bring them
said,
back
you,
ourselves.
To be honest, I don't think there is much more of a burden than just us doing our regular job. However, we do bring, during contract negotiations, when we do, after we've come to the table and we do feel that we've mutually agreed, I do bring that back. Council does look at it and see. And you could agree or disagree if you're like, well, no, I don't think we wanted to do that or could do this. I mean, they
And we're
can
back and forth.
continue. It does go back and forth.
yeah. So if you're saying I'm throwing just on her, no, I'm saying you threw it on Jimmy Gordon, fine. let
I was just
Councilman Gordon show up.
facetiously speaking.
Let you show up, let Katie, whatever her last name is, show up. Ms. Book show up, and
I think we should just wait, like Paul said, till July, and that's when we would be negotiating the contracts anyway, right? So, I mean,
But you're gonna want some numbers before then, anyway.
I don't see any reason to look at it before then. I mean, that's not that far away.
Yeah, but you don't wanna, with negotiations, you don't wanna show up to a meeting and be there for 2 hours and get absolutely nothing done because you don't have any info.
Staff and I do a lot of research prior to those
Yeah.
meetings, and the data that, because they will ask a question about wages, we will have done all that research for that meeting.
Yeah.
And it's more so in-depth than what, I mean, we didn't know exactly how this meeting was gonna transpire with the information requested. But Ms. Grotti does go through and call these cities to find out, do they have shift diff on top? Do they have additives in addition? It's an intensive process, but we have historically done that for union negotiations to make sure that we have all of the information prior to going in, and historically, our union negotiations have not gone long, and they have gone very well.
thank you, Ms. Grotti. Are you satisfied? I mean, I'm happy with that, with what we're saying. I mean, if you want to.
What are we directing her to do? I don't think we've directed that yet, have we?
Yeah, we're gonna go to the negotiations, we're gonna send whoever wants to go from the council. If it's gonna be a closed meeting anyway, I think the whole council can show up. Let whoever wants to show up.
It
show
doesn't,
up.
it's not gonna be a closed meeting anyway. We haven't decided it was going to be yet.
I thought it was closed.
No, it's not. It is if all of us show up, then it's a closed meeting and it has to be publicized.
Or three of
you
us
know.
show up, at least three of us show up.
So if the, say, 49ers attorney says, oh, I can meet this Tuesday, oh, we can't, because it's got to be in the paper for 2 weeks, I'm sorry.
If there's 3 or more.
Yes.
But
Okay,
if there
well,
was just Dan or I, or Jimmy and Dan, or you and I, or if there was just two
That's
of us,
fine,
or one of
then,
us.
okay, then just two. If it's gonna be that complicated, just two. I'm fine with whoever goes.
If I may, my recommendation on this item, or this part of this item, would be for me to find out all the specifics on who and what it entails, if we have any or all council members present at union negotiations, because we've never had that. So I can find out that information and bring that back.
Good idea, I like that. I'm in
Sounds good
favor of
to
that
me.
one.
And then at that COW meeting, we can discuss if we want staff to look into sooner than later researching Metro Pay for some or all staff. We'll think about it for a month.
Good idea, thank you.
All right, let's move on to 3, Whiskey Sidewalk Infill.
This item was requested by Councilmember Lundin. We did discuss this last year. I know, Mayor,
Steve?
yourself,
Oh,
you did.
That was my goal, like,
Discuss.
a long time ago.
Yes, and Mayor, you had gone out to some of those residents and requested if they wanted to give an easement in lieu of potentially a fence, us maintaining the sidewalk, and if you want to share.
so one south of, it's not Dogwood, it's the next street over, help me out. Say it again? Cedar. So on the corner of Cedar and Whiskey, the south side of Cedar was willing to negotiate with the city, but the north side wasn't gonna budge. He pretty much told me to stick it up my keister. So with that being said, I brought it back. I told you guys, you know, what was. So,
We had an option.
we did, which,
I was for the option, but no one else was.
the county option?
No, you force them to do it.
We could, or we could lean on the county, and
I mean, it's a sidewalk, it's kind of important.
it is.
So do like we do for roads then?
I don't know, I don't want to
What's
force
the
any-
correct word? Force sounds really, yeah, that.
Eminent domain, no, that's not the, is that the correct word? Eminent domain, we're taking their property? I thought we were just, what do we do, what do we call it when we, like we just
We're
did on
not-
Main Street? That's, it's
I
not the
mean-
same thing on Main Street? like
Eminent
when-
domain, is what you were thinking.
Well, on Main
It's-
Street, we were just doing assessments, you know, for our work to the
And the sidewalks are within the right of way.
Yeah,
property.
I got assessed.
I get that, but eminent domain means we're taking people's property, right? I know what that word means.
Yeah, I don't
So
like.
why would we
taking-
take, I'm not gonna take people's property.
Right, so.
Then you'll never have a sidewalk there.
Which is huge, and
So,
I'm not
Have your
disagreeing
kids
or
cross Whiskey
disagreeing.
Road to go down, to cross it back, and then go down, and then cross it again. My kid crosses
not saying I'm
Whiskey
not in
Road
favor
3
of your
times before he reaches a crossing guard.
I'm not saying I'm
Which
not
might
in
get hit
favor of
one out
having
of
a
three.
sidewalk down there, but I'm still not gonna
So-
take people's property away from them. I'm not, I'm just saying I'm not in favor of eminent domain. That's all I have to say about it.
And then there's
Okay, let's meet
issues
halfway
with
on
the
this. There's
right-of-way.
gotta be somewhere we could figure out.
The
so we can
right-of-way.
plow more sidewalks.
the county right of way, right? The city has no right of way along there.
Right, so back in 2016, we did a little report, and basically had three layout options. One, we throw the walk down the bottom of the ditch, which is, we actually have a couple pieces of that already, but that's where it's gonna flood out every time it rains. But it would go around this property. The property line basically goes out to the ditch. The way the report ended up was, these two parcels are the only two parcels that need to acquire easement, and that's where we met with them every kind of 3 years. And so, this has basically been another 3 years.
Dan, you need water?
I guess the only other thing I'd add to the timeline of it, I guess, is these streets are proposed to get redone, this reclaim process, assessment, the whole deal, in 2025. That's what's in our capital improvement plan we just did. So obviously you can, move forward with whatever you want, but if we want to kind of tie it with those projects, maybe you could look at some kind of assessment
Trade-off,
thing with them.
that's a good idea.
But that's 2025 right now, just so you kind of know what the game plan is in
Yeah.
that area.
So now we're kicking it out 3 more years.
But
He's just throwing out an idea where,
Oh,
just,
It
we're
might-
gonna be working there and we're gonna be.
sorry, I
doing
was
some-
focused on water, Jason, I'm sorry.
it might sway him to agree and not put up a fight. Having zero
So
assessment.
the
on
residents
his-
south of there, I mean, granted, you build me a fence, and I'll let you throw the sidewalk in there, no fight, I'll give you the property. But the guy north was, well, then I gotta pick up the garbage, and I gotta trim it, and, which made me go to Matt and say, is that true? Do we do that in Whiskey? And Matt
No.
was like, yeah, then,
Well,
one side of the fence, they're responsible for trimming.
that was something that we decided a while ago, because the county comes out once a year, and we wanted it to look nice, so we have our guys do it on a regular basis.
But he stated he would have to do it, because he likes it even better than what the city likes it. And that was your prerogative, sir. You can do as many times you want. You can do it once a week. But the city would do it too. Nope, it's not enough. Forget it.
Jason, where's the county fit into all this? Or is that not their is that not their road out there, right?
Yep, it's their road.
So,
but
well,
they-
so how does that sidewalk fit into our planning here then?
They don't own sidewalks. So they allow us to put sidewalks in their right of way where we ask to, and it works with their road. And we own the sidewalk, we maintain it, it's ours. And that's what all of our walks are along all the county roads. They don't own walks, they don't care about walks.
So is it, so the county gives us the right to go in and say eminent domain, we're gonna take your property away? So we can do that.
Well,
That
that
is
would
an-
be the city
That is an
parcel.
option.
So that eminent domain topic would be, it's a city parcel that we would be having to go the legal route with. It's not a county right-of-way thing because
Josie,
we're trying
can
to
you-
get land off of the city
Cedar and
parcel.
whiskey, can you bring it up on, I think this would be a clear picture. Jason be able to point it out a lot better.
There's basically 4 properties.
And I'm not, Paul, I'm with you, I don't wanna
If
take
I-
nothing, but I'm
right,
also
4?
with Dan on, that's child
Oh, I get
safety.
to, I get to,
Your kids start walking, they might have to cross that, you know, when they get old
Right-of-way
enough.
problem.
I wouldn't want your kids to do that. Wouldn't want anybody's kids to do that. And I know the community, every corner I turn, they're asking me about that sidewalk.
Can't remember, what was the cost gonna be if we actually had that completion done on that, if we were able to?
So back in
Is that like,
2016, the report was somewhere around 100,000. We updated it in 2019 to like 125,000, and I'd say if we're looking at the 2025 project, it's probably more like 150,000. At one point, we were talking about that easement acquisition topic, based on their land assessed value, would be adding about another 4,000 or 5,000 to the cost to buy an easement, which if that eminent domain route was gonna go, we'd end up having to pay legal fees and for that land. So that cost would jack it up as well.
Can you zoom in, or is that the furthest?
That's,
you can
that's
zoom
the cost to bring it all the way from that, where it ends, all the way up to.
Cedar and
to
Whiskey.
South
There's
Passage,
5
right?
parcels we'd have to cross. Only 2 of them have this right-of-way
Okay.
issue.
Does that connect it to South Passage then?
It connects to the trail to the south and to the north then.
I think you're not far enough down, Josie. There's
Yeah,
birch.
it's
Keep
down at
going down.
Cedar. Another 2 blocks.
Another 2 blocks down,
Yeah,
right there?
right there.
Don't we put up, Jason, don't we put up signs around
No,
town?
that's
saying,
dogwood. You're
here's-
too far
here's-
down,
Here's a
Josie.
place for you to walk, and you should walk this pathway. Why couldn't
Right
we just
there.
say, why don't you, if you're gonna come over and
825,
take
24.
Whiskey Road.
There we go.
Why don't you just go down Sixth and all the way down to North, or is it South? North Brookview Drive, and then head over, because there's a sidewalk there that they could take down to that.
Yeah, you can tell kids that all day long, but you still see them walking on the side of Whiskey Road.
What you do, I've seen it snowing like a bat out of heck, and kids are walking that shoulder, and all I think to myself is, oh my God, I would freak out if that was my
Well,
kid.
you educate the parents to tell those kids to do that.
And
I
I'm
mean,
sure
I
you
get-
do, but
I mean,
You got
I get
young
what it's like
kids,
to be a
they're
kid
not
that
gonna-
age. I did things I shouldn't do. I used to bumper ski behind buses, so there
Well,
you
we-
go,
We
so.
don't,
I know,
we could just
my
say-
parents didn't promote that one, you know.
we
but-
could just
but-
get rid of the speed limits and just say, just drive safe.
But what I'm saying is, why can't? True. You know, if kids are that terrible, they're probably gonna be out on Whiskey Road walking too, so I don't wanna be down in the ditch walking on that. So I'm just saying, why can't we suggest and see how it works out with, why don't you walk down Sixth and get down to Northbrook Drive or whatever that is? Take a left and walk over the sidewalk.
I'm the 3rd house in right there.
okay, now you gotta
One-
zoom out, Josie, just a tad, I'm
Third house
sorry.
in,
So for him to walk to school, he's gotta walk all the way down this, the way you're talking, walk all the way down here to the east.
817.
I walked that all summer long, it's not that far. It's a block, it's a block or
No.
two from
So-
Whiskey Road down to Sixth.
I'm in 817.
So as,
Instead of him going up 2 houses and going down the sidewalk, you want him to go all the way down to Sixth, head north, all the way to Brookview, and then head back west?
I used to walk a mile to school when I lived in Minneapolis, that's not,
So, okay,
that is not a
tomorrow.
mile to get.
Tomorrow, 16 below 0 without wind chill, 35 below 0.
You're not gonna let your kid walk because you're gonna give him a ride because it's so cold.
I'll be at work when he goes to
Okay,
school.
well, somebody will.
No, it's not that easy.
I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying.
and logically, you would walk to the east and then to the north, but Let's face it,
It's just
they're
like,
not gonna
it's just like,
logically
it's just
do
like
anything.
walk, it's just
Kids.
like down.
You're making it twice as far in twice the amount of time.
Which is
There's gotta
still,
be-
which
there-
is still less than a mile. I would still guess it's less than a mile.
Uphill both ways, barefoot, yeah.
I'm not saying it's uphill both ways and barefoot. If you send your kid to school barefoot, that's on you, not on me, so.
I'm not against necessarily doing the sidewalk, but I am against taking the guy's property just to do it.
That's
I think-
my point.
I think Matt, excuse me, Jason has a good point there with, at some point in the future, when we, in 2025, we'll have some leverage there that maybe we could use to, sweeten the deal for him a little bit, and I think we just probably gotta wait it out until.
Or we can
but-
do it before.
Well, I mean, I don't know, why, have we not
I
considered
mean-
that?
We didn't do nothing at 8th and in County Road 5, and
I mean-
now kids got hit by trucks, so we're gonna do something. I mean,
Right.
that's too late.
Well, I'm not saying.
I'm
that.
saying we could offer,
Dan's
you know,
talking about,
talk to them about, okay, your road is due to be redone in 2025, if you let us put the sidewalk in 2023, maybe, there's something we can work out with your assessment costs in
As
2025.
Jason looks at me, because he's like, you talked to that
You
guy,
know.
he slammed the door in my
I'm just-
face. At least he
I'm-
talked to me.
Yeah. I'm just spitballing, get it done quicker, instead of having to wait till 2025.
I could
But I
go
guess
back
I
at
still
him,
wanna
because Jason won't do
clarify
it.
that, so-
It's just it's a phone call or
So-
a face-to-face conversation.
Jason, you going with?
See where he's, to see where he stands today,
Well, I
where,
mean, it doesn't hurt to ask him.
right.
It doesn't.
But I want to just make sure, so South Passage has that tar trail, right? And then the sidewalk stops, how far below, so you're on Dogwood, right? So it's.
Stops
Right there,
before.
you can see it,
Stops
Jimmy.
before Dogwood.
Okay, so we do have sidewalk that goes back up north there, and this would connect that to
Yeah,
that.
there's just a gap missing.
Right.
The sidewalk's
That's
all the
all
way.
we're talking about is
Yeah,
connecting the
it's just
sidewalk
like the
there, yeah,
gap to
yeah.
connect the dots. so
Yeah,
to
I mean, there was a time I was against.
There's
spending the
where it
money.
There it
ends.
is, right there, Jimmy.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
That's-
she went past that.
Right
side.
behind 825.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where it
ends.
stops,
Right,
right there.
Right there.
yeah, I mean, that should be finished. I mean, that's just,
Oh, I agree with that.
one of the
Before
things that
that
we
too.
do as a city is sidewalks. That's one thing we need to be doing is making sure we're, you have the ability for people to walk throughout the city, right? So, I mean, that's just basic stuff, but I agree with you. I don't think we take it from them, but I think if we looked at it sooner, like you said, Dan, and we wanna, maybe try to offer them something that would be, valuable to them.
Maybe he's changed his mind, maybe we caught him on a bad day, who knows?
I don't know, he slammed the door in his face, but he talked to me, so. And he heard me out for about a half hour, and then he found, nope. At first, he was for it, and then he shifted gears, nope. I was like, I mean, he didn't even give me no reason, it was just nope, hard no. So maybe approaching him with a different bargaining tool, as we say. Because I'll be honest with you, this is a rarity, but I agree with both of you. I don't want to take nothing.
No, I don't either, but
I don't want to take it, I don't
that
want to
was,
force it.
if that
on
was
him.
the only way we could get it done,
I still wouldn't do it.
I would.
I wouldn't.
Why, so just to go back to this situation over here.
This
down
kid's
east-
safety,
east- east-
adult
east on
safety.
five.
Not disagreeing with it, I still wouldn't take it.
Now, this thing east of 5,
Where there's a will, there's a way.
every kid has the opportunity to cross that street on a bus. You do not have to take, you can live closer.
True.
So does your child not have a chance to take a bus? Is it
No.
not- They won't give him a bus? That's
Won't
just
give
weird to
my-
me that they'll give him a bus down here, but they won't give him a bus over
They
here.
won't give my child a bus.
To
nor
go
does
to
my
the
kid
middle
wanna be on
school?
the bus.
You have to be over a mile away before you get bus service.
Correct.
So is that just because they're on 5? Is that why, Chief? Okay, so it just has to do with 5.
No, it has to do with the
There's a
school
mile
and
radius.
a mile radius
No,
of
but
that
what I'm
school.
saying to you is, those kids across the street of 5 have a chance to take the bus right across over, they're less than a mile away to the.
That's because they're crossing
intermediate
5.
school.
Yeah, that's a service provided by the school to alleviate the fact that we didn't have a safe enough intersection per se.
But the kids still don't take the bus knowing that,
Well,
Paul,
no, that's why they got hit. I get that.
because they'd rather walk. It's just like my daughter gets to
I'd
an
rather
age,
walk, if
she'd
I was that
rather
age,
walk too.
I'd rather walk too.
But if they don't have a sidewalk to walk, we're not making it very safe.
Well, I get that.
There's
but
a will,
but
so there's
I'm-
gotta
I'm-
be a way.
If you can take that, if you can get that, convince that guy to buy that, I'll vote for that sidewalk all day long.
I'm more than willing to talk to him on behalf of the council
Good,
again.
there we go.
If I'm saying
Ja-
to
take
give him a
Jason with
bar,
you.
oh, he's coming with me. If that guy jumps down my throat, Jason, peel him off so I can run.
Jason, Jason's bringing his dog with, so he'll bite him.
But we can, I mean, if we could offer them something in 2025, or if we can, you know, pay them Thursday for a burger and today, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only piece maybe would be whether we ask the attorney or what the rules are on how much can be offered, you know, for the value of the property and that type of thing, before we can just go ask them, hey, we'll waive your assessment and we'll pay you for the land or something. There's gonna be dollar amounts that are kind of allowed before we can agree to things. So, once we kind of get that answer, you know, might as well ask, I guess, but it's basically been every 3 years since 2016, if not before that.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd like to do it this year, if we could, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah,
I'd
but,
like to do it in 2022.
so I'd actually like to point out, on this exact topic, so I'm about to be bringing the Brookview South Reclaim Reconstruct project to council here, next meeting. And we are looking at filling in that walk along South Brookview. Right now, there's also dead ends on either end of that, running east-west on the south side of the river. So at least, on that topic of alternate routes to get over there, we are looking at bringing at least that idea of filling in that gap as well, so.
And that's not an issue with property ownership in there?
Well,
It's
it's
within
gonna
the
be
right of way.
able to fit in the right of way,
Okay.
so.
They don't get a
it'll be
choice.
in our- Yeah, in our right. There's some trees that we're looking at impacting, so we'll have an open house, that type of thing, but we'll talk on the next council meeting on that stuff. I just wanted, in this region on filling in sidewalks, just want to point out that we're looking at that too.
You should fight, I'd fight you too if you took my property.
Well, yeah, if you took it, absolutely. City attorney, let's see what we can do.
I will reach out to the city attorney and bring back the information.
All right, let's move on. Council chamber modifications for safety. What?
This is Councilmember Carlson's item.
yep. The first thing I thought of is steel plating behind here. If you look underneath, see that oak? Your foot's touching?
Yep.
Be steel plate there,
Why?
protection
Are
from
you
an active shooter situation.
The chief and get him.
Chief is gonna be the first target.
Let's just do a drill. I offered the chief, let's do a drill.
It's not that costly to do, and you can put a lot of people behind this from an active shooter.
So what happens when he shoots a chief, marches around the chief, and then comes and shoots us?
You're gonna have your gun out by then.
Who says I have a gun?
I'm just guessing.
I mean, how many of us up here have carry permits?
I'm applying for one, so I'll be right
You have
with
a carry
you.
permit?
I've got
You
one.
have a carry permit?
There we go.
There's
Everybody-
no posted sign on that door that says we cannot carry. City employees, however, cannot.
Was that right?
So who says we can't back the chief up? That is less costly than, and I don't know what that cost would be for steel plating. That just sounds like we are getting paranoid.
It's just being proactive, like you would just talk
So we're
earlier
gonna
in the
cower
different
behind
subject.
this counter and hopefully they don't come around, and if they do, then what?
You'll have your
Depends on the
gun,
individual.
We're
that's
dead
behind the counter.
anyway.
you'll have your gun drawn by then.
No, you hope that the situation is resolved by then, it's just a safe haven.
Councilman Gordon,
That's just one,
Councilman Burgley, anyone?
Well, it gets back to money again. I just bring a proposal. It's like employee retention. Tell me what it costs, tell me, you know. I just want a proposal.
I don't know, just spitballing,
Have you ever
probably
estimated?
200.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12?
Was that 200 including installation or no?
Well, we'd have Public Works
Public Works.
install it.
Oh, you did?
I mean, they do everything anyway. How are they gonna put it on there without drilling into our oak?
Boards.
Is that thick? Do you know, Matt? Is it that thick down here? That you could,
I have no idea how thick it is, to be honest with you, I've never.
If you look down,
then you're giving my fat legs less room underneath this table.
so
How
basically,
close do you come? I don't come that close. I'm
Basically-
taller than you.
Here's your
yeah, I
steel
know, but
plate.
I'm Always.
here's your
So you're
oak
farther back.
that's existing, and then here's a board here that's pinching it up against.
So we're buying 2x4 steel.
That's gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
That's gonna be expensive.
And possibly more plywood. No, you'd buy 2x4s and then the sheet metal.
No, you can do it.
Now we're
with-
talking about $2,000.
You can do it with a stained oak.
Chief, you can come and hide
You
too,
can
I
make it as
guess.
fancy as you want it to be on the underneath, but.
Just pew, pew, pew over the, I mean, is that gonna stop a bullet? That's some heavy steel.
I have no idea. What is 500 steel?
AR 500 bullet resistant steel, so I don't. so they make
It's gonna be some thick steel. Let's see the numbers. I'm with Paul.
Yeah, let's see the numbers, absolutely. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I want to see the numbers.
And then the other is, the lower windows. Look into,
Bulletproof lower windows.
lower windows.
Holy cow. we're
I've never looked,
paranoid.
I've never been
You
outside
can do
enough
it
to
in
try to look.
steps, increments, and those glass up there too. It'd be, kinda like what we did with lighting, street lighting. We did so much every year for 5 years.
Do it in increments.
So do you
Increments.
recall the
So
last,
it's not,
do you recall the last city council chamber that was shot up? I
yeah, it was about,
Yeah, there was one on the news. It wasn't like Hopkins or something?
New Hope.
New Hope.
and there's another one up by, I would say Sartell or somewhere up there, off Highway 10, up that way.
I think that was at the courthouse in a meeting.
Yep.
Little falls.
New Hope was the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
recent, where
somewhere
somebody
around
walked into New Hope during a council meeting and just started firing shots. He never made it in the council chamber,
Really? Where did he get stopped?
but I think our doorway is a lot closer than theirs.
Well, New Hope, they were swearing in new officers, so there was like a bunch of cops in the.
Yeah. It was ironic, I believe. Isn't there council chambers in the same building as the police department?
It could be, but they were outside before the council meeting because they're gonna swear in a new officers. There's a bunch of cops out there.
And he walked in and just started shooting the place up.
It has happened a number of times in this state, and we've had some hostile people in here in the last 10 years. I've witnessed it myself sitting up here.
Oh, I witnessed it being in the audience. I'm
So-
not taking that away from you, but I mean, in the last 4 years, have we had a hostile one in the last 4 years?
Who's that one guy with the crazy look in his eye?
We did
Mike?
have, there was one that
Becker?
stormed out and.
You can't say that about
figured
him when
some
he's not
foul
here.
language.
Yeah, who's that guy?
I'm not going to say.
Anyway,
I remember that guy. That was only one, though. And he was all talk.
we
I
got
shouldn't
a,
say that.
we have
I
we
take
have
that
a
back.
steel company right in town
We
that
do.
can cut out the holes for the outlets.
I think we'll consult with Chief Myers and find out exactly what would be appropriate for stopping, what it would typically be, someone with that kind of assault rifle, or whatever it's called.
I mean, Chief, I don't
And
see
then we'll
somebody
bring back
walking in with a
house.
handgun. It's gonna be an AR or a rifle.
That's it. They're gonna walk in with whatever they have.
Okay, well, let me give you a scenario. So I've been to
Just
enough
depends on
protests down at the governor's mansion where people walk around with AR-50s or 45s or whatever they are. So if you can carry here, it's no longer carry and conceal. I could walk through that door with an AR-45 and you can't stop me, right?
Well, sure you can.
No, you can't.
Sure you can.
Why-
We can have. a conversation.
It's not conceal anymore. I don't have to conceal it, do I?
No, conceal
I can walk
and
up here
carry.
with an AR-45 or whatever that is, the big rifle, assault rifle, and I don't think.
It's
can
a
you-
tactical rifle,
Can you
sporting
stop me,
rifle.
can you stop me from walking up here with a big rifle, Chief?
Depends.
I
Yeah,
mean,
see,
can
there-
you ask to see his permit to carry or her permit
Oh,
to
he can
carry?
do that.
Do we need a sign up?
No, I can walk,
But
I'm
then
telling you.
if you're
I went
putting a
down to
sign
the-
up, now you're banishing us too.
The criminals always follow the rules on the sign.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's no longer carry and conceal, it's carry. You can
It's
carry,
a permit to carry a pistol in the state of Minnesota.
but you can also carry a rifle. Usually, it's
Right.
just carry, it's
I
not,
know, it's,
it's just carry.
You can conceal it in this state. Others you can't. It has to be in the open, like a holster on the outside.
But I'm saying you can carry a rifle too.
you can. It's a state of Minnesota permit to carry a pistol, verbatim.
Okay, well, I'm telling you. when I
But you
went to-
can carry
I
a
went to the
rifle,
governor-
right?
What's that?
You can carry a rifle, can you, in open carry?
Some places, yeah.
You can in the state of Minnesota.
So just to walk through that door with a rifle doesn't mean anything.
Well,
Well, I'm saying,
Wrong,
can I legally do that? Can I walk in here with a rifle?
Sir, check your gun at the door, please.
So Chief's shaking his head, yes, so I can walk in with a rifle, so I'm saying just, if somebody walked through with the rifle right now, are we all gonna duck down? I don't know at what point we duck. Yeah.
I'd be ducking down.
I've been around enough of them where.
I'd be, Josie, get behind the chamber.
most of your government buildings ban weapons.
But not here, we're not. We don't ban here.
Not that I know of. I don't even know if there's policy for,
There is for the city employees. I asked Miss Wood, 2 years ago? Right? Or was it this year?
but anyway, just getting back to it can happen.
Well, it can
And
happen, I don't disagree. It
I
can
don't want
happen.
to argue
I just don't know
about,
at what point you dive under, when the guy picks up his rifle and points it at you.
you're not gonna know it's
Okay.
gonna happen like this. You just hope someone reacts quick enough,
Right, so,
so.
well, I say look at the numbers and bring it back and,
I'm not against that. Not saying we're doing anything, but let's see what it costs. Consult with the chief.
I brought it up a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Did we laugh then too?
You weren't here.
Did we laugh?
I wasn't laughing at the idea, I was just laughing, I don't know, I have no idea, I never thought about it before.
I wasn't laughing at the idea either. I just thought you were paranoid, Dan, I won't lie.
I'm sure.
That's why I laughed at, like, Dan, are you that paranoid?
I'm sure the New Hope City Council
Proactive.
has their. plate in
Proactive.
that-
All right,
plate
fair
in-
enough.
plate in metal.
Probably true, yeah. Yeah, they probably got it secure.
All right, consult with the chief, bring some numbers back. Number 5, growing industrial department.
So I'll just share a brief overview, and then Stephanie is going to carry this item. So the city currently has approximately 6.22 acres remaining shovel-ready sites, and that number is going down. We do have some really great, strong interest, which is very exciting within the Centennial Complex. We do own and we're going to plug my computer in, and I will show you, we do have 66 acres that we had north of the wastewater treatment plant. And curious if there's anything or any interest that you want staff to look into, if we want to.
Did you
put
say
together-
66 acres?
66,
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
acres. That was one of the sites back, it's an thank you, EDA property. And back in the day, it was discussed for a potential rail.
The entryway would have to
Does-
be
yeah.
right next to the public works though, right?
But-
Along that fence line?
Go ahead and talk about,
According to, I should have brought the picture.
MinDOT, you gonna say that again?
According to MinDOT, we can't do anything with this land.
I'd be more afraid to go up against the railroad.
Now that we just put that on the record, we probably can't.
According to the plans drawn up, it includes the existing wastewater treatment plant is 137 acres total, I believe. And once it is decommissioned and a mechanical plant is in its place, there's a concept that has been created that includes a road going from north to
I
south.
thought I turned that down, my apologies. Sorry.
That's okay. From north to south, and creates about 6 lots that have rail spurs. From my understanding, I'm meeting with the BNSF representative in the next week. We tried to meet before, but he was out due to COVID. It is still a possibility to get a rail spur along this area. But we just need to know if it's a possibility to consider looking into further development of this property. We will have to extend service from the new residential development to the corner of the property at a minimum. But right now, there is potential that we will be down to 1.22 acres soon of industrial land. Unfortunately, it's not common for private investors to take on the development of industrial property. It often ends up being EDAs or city councils who provide the space for industrial development.
So which new development is that over there? Is that the one south and west of that property?
yep, right here.
Okay.
So the benefit of growing our industrial area is to lower our, or to have a larger tax base and to lower our tax rate overall, by getting more businesses in and getting more jobs in.
So we're looking for this area to be industrial.
Yes,
Do we not have to put water and sewer and roads through there though to?
we do. There are, depending on who shows interest into the property, there are state and federal funds that would potentially help us cover the cost of extending infrastructure. Generally, you need a bird in hand, a company that's willing to
Who
move
owns that
there and
property
wants to
where-
invest.
to the east of there?
On the other side of the
Right
tracks.
there, yeah.
Isn't that the new police department in there?
No.
This is owned by Knife River, hourly.
And that's another potential area for development. I did reach out to Knife River to see if they are interested in expanding or what their,
We already
and
own that.
what their potential is, and they said they are interested in selling that property for future industrial development. We do have service at the corner of that road, so it would extend to the north. And we do have somebody interested in potentially looking at that parcel on that corner, also 5 acres of that parcel.
So your recommendation is we obviously need more room for industrial space, and you're
Yes.
looking to see where the council is interested in spreading our wings.
Yes.
Are we limited what we put in there because of the soccer fields? No, I'm serious.
Well,
'Cause
this would not
that's
be
right next to
including-
the soccer
This
fields,
is a
right?
soccer complex right here.
Right.
It wouldn't be actually changing the soccer complex at all. It would just be developing this at this time, and then we could, down the road, once we get that mechanical plant, which is quite a ways down the road, look at what we would do over here. But it would be, Stephanie, as she mentioned, is gonna reach out to BNSF and see if there's, a potential for the rail spur here. Otherwise, with direction from council, if you want, we can put together a plan of how to get utilities through here and what those kind of costs look like. So we could divide that into multiple parcels to be able to sell.
How big is that parcel you have in blue right now?
It's about 20 acres is developable.
And then the other one's 66, you said, Steph?
Yes.
What's the
close
other
is
one-
that?
What's the other one to the east of that, above that one, yeah?
That's a private
Oh.
person owns that right now.
Where does the bike trail go in through there? Because doesn't the bike trail go right through by the soccer
It's
complex?
north of the property that we're
It
looking at.
follows along Third Avenue and goes across 298. Like,
Okay.
It follows the strip road and then it jogs over.
I thought drawing the scale, that would be closer
here.
to the soccer fields, but apparently not.
Mm-mm. I see what the point you're getting at, Paul, but,
Well, I'm just wondering if that interferes with that at all.
yeah, no.
I
No,
think
it
the,
wouldn't.
There'd only be 2 entrances along that path from
So,
previous concepts.
do you think we could weigh both options and see what, I mean, the 22, or, I mean, I'd rather have the 66, that's a
Well, if you-
lot more, but
yeah.
putting utilities in it, and
if you're gonna have a railroad spur, the bigger piece would probably be better.
I would
But
think
if
so.
they shoot that down, I would go for the smaller piece and start with that. That's my opinion.
Do we own the 66?
Well,
Yes.
Yeah, we
yes.
do.
Yeah,
So we
so
currently
it's-
own that. It would be if you want staff to develop a plan to get utilities to that area to make it more marketable.
Is
That
that the
would
same
be-
property that we already were trying to sell
Yeah,
with the EDA, right?
I think we leased it for crops too,
It
didn't we?
is
On
leased
that
for
one?
crops.
Right.
Yeah,
But if we developed it as industrial, that brings a lot more tax base in.
Where would you cross, you say there's 2 entries. I don't see how to get in there
See, that's-
without going across the bike
Yeah.
path. Because unless you're gonna go next to the soccer fields and come in this way.
South of there, I
So
would say
south
down by
and-
the
south
water
and- South and
treatment.
east, you're saying the south and east?
Yeah, it's that shape in here, Steph. If Josie goes down a little bit,
Yeah.
So you're crossing the bike path to get in there.
so it would be coming across that bike path, is what Paul's getting at.
Yeah, I would cross the bike path in 2 places.
Okay. So is there any issues with that?
no.
We would just make a curb cutout and,
I'm telling you, the soccer fields don't respect the bikes coming in. If you have some semi trucks pulling in and out of there, you know,
That's
it
why I
would be,
kinda,
it would be on the north, it would not be near into the soccer complex.
no, I get that.
Parcel.
I'm talking about
Coming down the
the
road.
bikers that go through there. I'm telling you, I do that probably 3 days a week when the weather's nice.
What if
And
Jimmy mentioned that at the meeting he's supposed to go to? I bet you they wouldn't even mention that. They wouldn't even push back.
I'm just trying to think of logistics here. How would you get in? I don't see any way to get in there unless you come in the southeast side and go east of those soccer fields, but otherwise, there's no way to get in there.
There's
unless you
two
go-
roads.
Unless you go across those bike paths.
Yeah,
No,
you'll have
there's
to
two
cross
roads
the
you can
bike
access
You're
paths.
gonna have to cross the
But
bike paths.
it's a
Okay.
very common thing to have bike paths actually in
Where?
industrial development because it's seen as an alternative route to work, which is actually a big advantage for a lot of
Heck yeah, I'd ride my bike to
people
work
and
right
getting
there.
federal funding because they do want to see alternative routes to
And
work.
it's on the railroad.
For the truck traffic and stuff, I kinda like the other parcel
Right.
better, just,
The cost,
cause they'll be driving through residential and park area to get in and out of there.
We don't own
That's-
the other one yet.
we
And
own that piece, and all we'd have to do is put utilities in, but the other piece, the utilities are already there.
and
but
it's
we'd have to-
65 is like, Highway 65 is just down the road, there's already heavy trucks on that road.
We'd have to purchase it though.
Right, so,
You'd have to weigh the pros,
Yeah.
it's a pros and the cons thing, you'd have to see which one. Could we like do numbers on both parcels and see what it comes out to be?
And Jason, what's your thoughts? We've talked about it a little bit, but
Let's keep in mind that every time you guesstimate, you're within,
I'm held to that forever.
yeah, you're pretty good at
Last time
guesstimating.
To throw numbers out. No, so, in this situation, that newly stubbed, Eagle Street there, we do have sewer and water stubbed out, into Third there, but, it's not really set up for high flows, but, grade-wise as well, and considering those wetlands are there, I'd assume we'd need like a lift station to get positioned out there, so then we'd be running force main back and water main that wouldn't really be looped, so we'd be looking at trying to have a concept of how that's gonna come back around, but, it's in the multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a lift station functional and utilities even just to the corner of that site, much less actually like developing it and subdividing it to be able to sell it in pieces. So,
So when you say multiple, you're saying 200,000?
no, I'm saying more like $500,000.
And you say the utilities are already in the other one? Is that what
what's
I
at the
heard?
corner?
They're at the corner, and the road is actually even kind of laid out so that it would be able to extend straight north, and the utilities would be able to go right with it. But like was said, it'd have to be actually platted and subdivided anyway, and then it would come down to who's paying for the road, the developer or the city or whatever, but
I don't know, to put 500,000 in that, I'd have to have somebody ready to go and say they want it. I'd have a hard time just sticking $500,000 into that.
right, because once you put a lift station out there, now it's either just sitting there useless until somebody
Jumps
wants to
on it.
use it. Whereas it's not just gravity fed where you can have it ready and wait and, for
If we
however
buy
long you want.
22 acres, you said that was?
yeah, about 20-ish.
And if we ended up consuming 20, then we're gonna look for another slot, I guess, but to me, it would make sense not to spend $500,000.
I mean, that property there, 20 some acres, what the ballpark figure, something like that could sell for?
I asked them what they were looking to get, and he said to make an offer. Or, I didn't tell him it would potentially be us, I just said if I had somebody interested.
Yeah. Well, how much is that? 80 acres on the other side of 65, what'd they want for that? Or was it 80 acres, or north of the US gas station,
North of Minoco?
or Minoco now, yeah, still call
I
it.
believe it was,
1.2, wasn't it? 1.2
How
million?
many,
it was about $1 million.
and how
But
many,
I don't know if that was a serious number.
Right.
Because we did end up pursuing it after we found the other site for our liquor store.
how many acres was that one? I want to say, I thought it was at like 80 acres, or,
I didn't think it was that much.
The price was about that, though. I remember that was like 1.1, was like.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't remember how big it was, though.
28 acres, is that what, right on here? Yeah.
How many?
28?
28 like this, but it doesn't pull up
Oh
this
my
one, which
God.
is owned.
I don't know how to turn this thing on. Here, we'll do this. There.
Yeah, 28 acres here, but we were looking at this one with, this was quite a bit of money right here, owned by,
Yeah.
this is who owns
I mean, it's
Monroe.
highway frontage, I get that, that would be more money than the other parcel, but.
It's a company phone. I don't know how the thing works.
The challenge that we've seen with this big parcel is that, to put the road through and utilities, it's quite a bit, it's a large parcel, quite
Yeah.
a bit to put utilities through there.
But, so going back to the other one, the one that we own, what do we put that on the market for?
I don't believe we have it on the market,
Oh, okay.
do we?
I thought we
I
did.
thought we
There's
talked
a for
about
sale
putting it on the market.
66?
I think it still says $1 like the rest of the properties.
This one?
Yeah.
What's the estimated market value though?
I thought we put that up for sale.
I thought we did too. Sheila Selman said we put that up for sale.
Remember discussing it, we decided to just sell it.
Yeah.
We
There is
offered
a-
it as cropland and/or selling the property, but I
And then
thought
she
we put a
got,
price on
I
that.
thought, yeah,
I thought we put a price on it.
I thought so too.
If that's the case, we need to up the price in that.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Well, I don't know how you'd sell for, it's not shovel ready, which is what we sell our other properties for
Yeah.
$1. It's.
I thought she was gonna have it appraised, so we knew what
That's
the
what it
market
was.
value was on it.
Maybe.
It
And she
was-
And then-
She
it
never
was
got to it, I bet.
appraised, I believe,
Was it appraised?
yeah.
How
What
much?
did it appraise at, do you recall?
I do not recall off the top of my head right now.
So do we need, what, are you?
Which, that's not actually public information, I don't believe, until we need to disclose it.
You looking for direction here? Is that what-
I think we should look at the.
I was just trying to get an
22 acre.
idea of what that smaller would sell for,
I think the
That's all.
22 acre would be
in
feasible.
comparison.
I think that 60 or 80 acres, I think. there's too many-
66.
I think there's too much that would go with that.
Yeah,
Plus, she wants to put $500,000, you'd have to be ready to sell for me to stick that kind of money into it. Why buy it at that point?
I mean,
Really what staff's looking for in this item is, how aggressive do you want us to explore growing the industrial areas
well,
within
if
the
we've only
city?
got
Whether-
6.22 acres left, I mean, that could potentially be one person coming and buying.
well, it sounds like by
Wow.
the end of the year, we might only have an acre and a half.
Yeah,
Correct, so we will probably this year for sure, start looking at turning people away, if staff's put together a plan, let's just say on the 60, it doesn't really matter whichever one, if we purchase the one or we put together a plan the other, at least Stephanie could then work with them of, here's our plan that we have in place if we have a serious person looking to buy the land, so we're not putting in utilities for when we don't have anybody, but when we have interest, we can start acting much quicker if staff has already done some of that legwork, if that's what
It's
council
think
wants.
that 20
it's easier to put a concept together for people to see what's possible. A lot of people can't see what's possible.
I like the 22 acre, and then
I think it's better location, it's smaller, but it's a better
we
location.
sell that, we can give Public Works and the police more money then.
Yeah, I guess. Just back to that cost to develop this 66 acres, the cost to get the utilities there, are your prerogative if you want to take on the cost to get it there to be able to market it easier as opposed to telling the person buying, it's your service, so your cost. We've kind of had those same type of conversations on private developments, on residential developments out on the outskirts that would need to run a half a mile utilities. We just tell them, well, if you want to do it, you got to pay for it. We just adopted that oversizing cost, trunk utility cost sharing policy, where if we need to make it bigger, the city was going to help participate, but not to.
So we can make a
just pay
corner
for
in
it.
like the south corner, to, hey, you buy this property, you gotta pay for the water to come out to it, we just keep doing it to everybody that, inch your way out?
You can.
Well, that-
I'm just saying, it's not a drop the land or pay $500,000, it's just options out there.
I agree. And when you do find somebody who's interested and we get a company who comes here who wants to put up a 200,000 square foot building because we have a parcel that's big enough to fit it, we can figure out how to.
Get the water there then, or they
And,
could pay for it
and that's where
potentially?
federal and state funding will come along with us.
So
to
it
help
sounds
pay
like
for
you're in
that.
favor of the 66 acre.
Well, I'm in favor of not selling it, but not as, just to get rid of it, not for industrial. I think we need to,
Weigh our options? So you think we should take that sign down?
I think we should keep it for sale, but keep it industrial. I mean,
I agree.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it should stay industrial. We have it industrial, do we not?
yes,
Oh, okay.
but don't just get rid of it to get rid of it.
I think
Yeah,
that,
I would.
So ultimately, she's recommending that she has to work with engineering and to put together some kind of concept plan, so it looks like we can have someone have a vision of what could go there.
So she's looking for direction?
Yeah.
I
Well,
have nothing.
I'd,
yeah, get the concept plan going, the two of you.
on the big parcel or little parcel?
I'd go the 66 acre then. If we could inch our way out there and they pay as we go, then that's defeating us sinking $500,000 into it to put the water and sewer in there.
Well, and I think potentially we could still look at both and not purchase the 20 acres, if we can work out some sort of,
What's it, like a rough
Deal.
cost of putting a road in there
yeah, we can still
and
just have
plotting
a
it?
rough cost of it, so we know,
There's options.
yeah.
I'm guessing it's gonna be cheaper than having that shovel ready by far than the other lot shovel ready.
And we do have an interested party in part of the parcel that is in the 20 acres on that corner, who definitely likes the quick access to 65.
On that 22 acre.
Yes, yep.
Now you got me thrown for a loop here. Which one do we want to look into? The
I-
66 or the 22 for
I
crying
think we
out
should
loud?
look in the 22. We own the other one. That can sit for a while.
Yeah,
They ain't going anywhere if we don't want it to.
Well, that's what she's saying. Well, don't sell it to get rid of it. Okay, I'm
Right.
with you on that. Keep the for sale sign up, but it doesn't mean we necessarily have to sell it.
I think the 22 is gonna be more appealing to
Yeah, 'cause she said she's
industrial,
already got,
just because
she
the
said she had already
access,
had somebody interested.
Yeah,
just
so
because the access to 65,
Right.
and
I
it's,
see what you're saying now.
If we already have somebody interested, why do we have to buy it? Why can't we just tell them to call Knife River?
because they're probably gonna want some incentives to build
Well,
there.
yeah, I mean,
well,
they can come
we
to us
can
and ask us
still,
about that.
no matter who owns the land, we can always offer tax abatement or tax increment financing to help cover the costs of the property, which is often how it's used. So they still purchase it for $200,000, and we can use tax increment financing to help them cover the cost of that acquisition.
He might
And then
only,
we're also
if he buys that
annexing
5
property
acres,
into the city,
you
so
want
it
the rest,
increases
well,
our-
then we gotta get easement through his 5 acres to get to the rest.
Well, I
To where
would
if
think
we
you
just
would just make
buy
that
it,
as
our
part
hands
of
are
the
tied.
platting process.
Oh, okay.
So it would have, once it came into the city, it would have to be platted, which would allow us to work with Knife River on the remaining parcel, or if this party would buy the entire 20 acres, work with them on the future of the parcel.
So at this point, we'll just leave it as it is. Stephanie and Mr. Cook will work together on how to get utilities there. So if someone interested is, we do have some kind of concept plan to get them if they were interested and draft up some drawings.
Why not see what the
On the other-
22 acres is gonna go for too,
On the
though?
22
Okay.
acres, at this time, probably just leave it be. But just know that we will not
See what they
have-
want for it. It ain't gonna hurt to see what they want for it. And then we could weigh our options there. We could do the 66 acres, the cost of that, or should we buy this 22 acres with an interested party on the backside of it? But let's not, I mean, we don't, I like the idea of, yeah, we have a for sale sign there, but it doesn't mean we have to get rid of the 66 acres. We can hang on to it and potentially somebody come in and say, I'll buy that whole 66 acres for, I mean, I'm probably thinking big, but, you know, it could happen. But I think we should check both options.
I think those
It's
lots,
numbers.
I think those lots would sell a lot quicker than that 66.
I agree, but again.
Just
we
because
need
the
to-
access to 65
Need a
Fair.
contingent plan, you know? What's that? Both? Both? No? Yeah?
No, I like what Jimmy said, have them, you know, if they wanna buy it, go check it out with, who was it, River, something River, Knife River?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the 66, I mean, I'd like to, I know Steve has always, for years, he's been saying, I want to get rid of the properties we got and be done with them, right? Which I'm on the same,
I
you know, camp
wasn't
as
till I
that, but we already have the
that.
66, so I mean, what do we need to do to get rid of it? I mean, I think knowing what the cost would be to us, you know, for us to get the utilities there would be valuable information regardless of whether we sell it as one piece or we sell it piece by piece, you know, so I think doing the work to get an idea on that for sure is not gonna hurt anything, and probably would be good info either way. The 22, if we don't own it already, I don't really have any interest in seeing us buy anything else, I guess.
What's,
In order for the city to spread though, I don't wanna be in no real estate game either, I understand that, but in order.
we don't wanna run out of it though either.
Right.
Well, we can give them tax incentives, like was stated over there,
If we own it.
without buying them. We don't need to buy
But we-
the property. She said, did you say we don't have to buy the property to get that?
No, we don't need to own the property to give people tax incentives to develop the property. But it would be in our interest to at least have the conversation probably with Knife River to
That's what I mean, it
Talk
ain't gonna
about-
hurt to have the conversation.
Sure.
talk
Have the
about
conversation.
annexing the property into the
And,
city.
and like Jimmy says,
There-
and to see what the costs are gonna be on the 66.
There is
Have
a
both of 'em.
deferred assessment on the 20 acres, so that was one of their concerns about why that parcel in particular isn't already annexed in when they purchased it. I think 2 of their parcels are in the city, and that one is not because of that, he said. So figuring out a way to work with them on how to disperse that assessment over multiple lots if they replat it, and seeing how that works is also something we need to consider, but when you look at our land use plan, it's the right place to grow for industrial, so.
So, just spitballing, that 22 acres, you said with that road alignment, kinda? How you could extend that road, just keep going straight to the north? And whatever, you go straight to the north, maybe to the little right, and you have a cul-de-sac or something, and you have lots on west and east side of that road?
Yeah, so when they did that little development of that expansion and parking lot right there, we actually, part of our plan review was I made sure they laid out their storm pond to be out of the way of where
The road would,
future road would need to run, where that right of way would go, so that we aren't gonna have to make them move it, or whoever buys it and wants to resplit it won't have to touch that. It's ready for the road right of way to be there. And that was part of the review process to make sure it was ready for that. And so it's set up for the road to extend to the north. And so that's just that same topic of, if the city were to buy it and extend the road and then like subdivide it, we're basically acting as developers and paying for the road ahead of time and then trying to sell off the lots, as opposed to letting a developer come to town and say they want to buy that and put a building there, and we say, well, then you have to plat the road right away and build our road. And that's when you'd get into discussing who's paying for a share or whatever. But, you know, that's that same topic of whether we need to buy it first or not. And it's just, while they're platting it, is when we would have that review to make sure the right of way goes in where we want it, which is how we do all of our reviews, so.
what's the benefit of the city owning it, basically just for marketing purposes? And we can actually go after businesses since we own the land?
I think there's still potential for that if we don't own it. We just can't guarantee until it's in the city that it's going to come into the city and be industrial.
So,
So it's really the annexation piece that's the most important, so. if
We're
we-
actually doing it the right way and not taking it. Like prior people did than us. I think both discussions would be worth wild. It's a discussion.
I agree.
And we'll move forward. We'll have staff and work on together, putting together some numbers on getting utilities to the 66-acre parcel, and then reaching out to see a cost on that, and she can share that with EDA.
Sounds good.
If
Thank
there's
you.
an option there for EDA.
Sounds good. Number 6, establishing a redevelopment district.
So there are some funding opportunities available. This is just an option that's out there. Stephanie has worked with other cities that have done this, where we can get some funding so we can help to improve streetscapes or business facades downtown. A lot of times that can be, it's called a redevelopment district, and I'll let her explain a little bit more. And we're just looking if this is something, it's never been talked about in our city. Is it something we want to consider to facilitate for our businesses?
The Small Cities Development Program allows cities to apply for funding that allows them to do streetscape items, a percentage of it, as well as even some housing, if there's housing that needs some fixing up for, oftentimes it's seniors to stay in their housing, or just improvements like furnaces, expensive things. But the same for businesses, and that is not only facades. A lot of cities use the funding to create downtown facade programs in their redevelopment districts, but it also can be used for roofs or other things to keep your businesses from degrading, and helping out buildings that maybe have been around for a long time and it's very expensive to repair them.
Can we buy Jimmy Gordon the Creamery Crossing?
If we
So-
wanted to give them a forgivable loan, you could do something like that through this process. But
I like
the
it.
idea is to, you create a district.
You gotta like it.
You create a district where the funding can be used in. And so I just kind of drew a fake idea for a district here, but it includes the downtown and then
Do you have a picture?
55 area. It's on,
Oh, do we?
yeah.
It's in your packet, Paul.
Oh, I know, but my packet didn't work today because Katie Brooks updated my packet.
Oh, you're blaming Katie Grotti.
Oh, Grotti, sorry.
There it be.
So you drew what? What did you draw? From
think
where,
she's
from down, how, did you go on the other side of the
From-
railroad tracks or where?
Yeah, from 65 all the way to Whiskey on County Road 5.
Oh,
And then down First and,
Basically from Mobile down to the, now it's a BP again.
Okay.
Both sides of the
and there
5.
could be better places, but I just quick drew. like-
Did you include Main Street on that then, or not?
Yes, I did include Main Street.
From Whiskey to 65 again?
Not the
Just
entire way to Whiskey, just to First or
Basically the
Second.
retail.
Because I need
Yeah.
new windows.
First, second, and,
I think.
But it can be moved around.
Yeah, we can do it. It was, I just.
We
did
can
this
establish
to-
the district. It's just a matter of, do we want staff to spend time and effort on researching this further to see if that's something that we want to facilitate within our.
is it more residential or more business? What do you think?
You can do either, really. There's 3 different pots of money for this. Some is for infrastructure, some is for businesses, and some is for residential. Some parts of it require matching, but some of it does not require any match. So it just depends on how far we want to look into it and start designing a program for the city of Isani.
I like the idea.
And in, like, for the building one, you don't have to have the city put up the matching money. The matching funds can come from the business. So if you're doing a facade grant, for instance, you can give a maximum amount, and the 50% of it has to come from the business owner. So if you're saying it's $2,500, the business owner has to spend at least $2,500, which usually ends up being more. But then that's where your match comes from. It's not from the city's funds. It's from the business owner's funds,
So
or the building owner.
it can help beautify some of these
Yeah.
businesses that are just haven't been updated in many years or.
And then
Some
there's
of the
like,
older buildings in Maine or
Or
5.
streetscape is another one, like adding lights or some decorative stuff on County Road 5. You work with the county in that situation, but something that,
Or flower pots on Main
Yeah.
Street.
that works.
I like the idea. Jimmy?
As long as we don't have to match anything, I like the idea, so. If it doesn't cost us anything.
We're asking for grants,
Yeah,
AKA
right.
money.
Well, but she said some of the things we would need to match, part of the
Well-
cost. I mean,
Well,
or-
but
No,
like-
the owner,
business-
but
well,
the owner of the business would.
For
Right, but-
beautification, you can get other grants too, as long as they're not coming from the same federal funds.
Okay.
So if we got state funds or private funds, it doesn't matter where they come from as long as it's not from the same funder.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't cost us anything, I'm okay with looking into it.
Okay.
All right, number 7, age-friendly city designation.
So this is also stepping in, share a little bit more, but the state declared that they would be age-friendly state since 2019. And in doing so, there have been some funding opportunities, grant-related, a lot of times where you can look at those 8 domains of livability and increase amenities within your city. And the amenities can be diverse, but there are some things such as AARP grants, if you do have that designation that you can go for, and for an example was a $25,000 community grant. And just looking at this is something that you want staff to spend time on, look into further. And if you have anything to add on.
I just worked on this process with the city of Princeton, and the reason I think it's important is because the state did become, or is working on becoming, an age-friendly state, and they're talking about, the council consists of all of the commissioners from all of the major departments, the Department of Health, Department of Economic Development. All of those department heads are weighing in and using this lens to make their funding decisions. So I think it's going to be important for us to prove how we're becoming more accommodating for all ages, and it's thinking of it as seniors, also those who need wheelchairs. The same great accessibility is for families with strollers. So for all ages includes everyone, and just making sure there's more accessibility everywhere, I guess.
So sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
Whatever I can do
Yes.
to help Paul in 2 years, I'm all for it.
1.5 years.
Okay.
I was close.
It doesn't cost anything to get designated, it's staff time. We would work closely with the Council on Aging, other programs
You are.
and nonprofits that serve the city would also help with us. It include a community survey, and then generally from that, you pick 3 or how many priorities of the 8 domains that fit ISANI, and start working on them from there.
I like
Sounds
it.
good to me, let's do it.
Do it.
Sounds good to me, let's do it. Being the oldest one in the building right now. so. That's right, Ms. Woods, I'm older than you. so.
He said it, I didn't this time.
Okay, next we have, so looking into that, and again, just to remind council, it is having staff balance the workload with all the other projects, so we will fit these into where they fit within the year. These may not all be coming back right away at the beginning of this year, but we'll work them in to get more information throughout the year. Moving on to future Bluebird Park amenities. So council has shared at multiple meetings that they are more interested in having a large central park, which is Bluebird Park, and not investing as much into replacements of equipment in some of our neighborhood parks. With this item, we're looking not for this year per se, but out even a decade or farther. So it gives Ms. Olson some information to look forward to obtaining of how we want to grow overall, and putting together a concept plan of where we want Bluebird to look ultimately. Maybe it's in 25 years. We had a plan way back in the day that included amenities such as another baseball field and some other things. Not sure if that still has kept with council or if we want to change that, but over time, ultimately, what do we want Bluebird Park to look at? Some of those things, if they cost money, we want to work them in, so we're not bonding for those amenities. We are working them into our budget process. A couple ideas. This kind of correlates a little bit with that age-friendly and for all ages is inclusive play. Stephanie can share more information, but there is not an inclusive playground anywhere near here. I believe she said Crystal is the closest.
What does that mean,
and
inclusive play? I don't know what that
Inclusive means, so if you're in a wheelchair, you could do all the activities there at the
Okay.
playground. So they have specific equipment that would make it fit to their ability.
There's also grants for that.
And there are grants for that, but that is one thing that we do here, Ms. Olson, I'm sure, Mr. Spester and myself, working in parks, is we do get that as a constant request. Can you get more ADA equipment, and it's
I've
at
heard it
multiple
2 or
parks,
3
but at
times.
least if we had some amenities at one park, they could drive their families and their children to that park where we had them. So that's a continual request just to think about. Also, another request that we get quite often is expanding the skate park. We do have skate park equipment, and the children do love it. We get constant requests to expand and have more. Maybe it's for different age groups, maybe it's just to have a separate set. We do have the space available on that concrete platform out there. And is that something council wants us to consider, look into? Again, not this year, maybe the upcoming year, but just future. Do we want to have more skate park equipment for kids out there?
I think that's a great idea, because every time I'm over at the BMX track, I
It
look
is
over
full.
there, it's packed,
It's back.
and people are waiting to take a turn
Yep.
Yes.
on one of the pieces.
And
Yeah.
if there's one reason to have the lights on, it's.
really
it's
busy.
It's that bike park.
It's
or
busy
that-
all the time.
Crime rate, that's all I see.
And then we have exercise equipment is something else that could be considered, or if there's other amenities. Again, looking for a broad scope, ultimately what we want that park to look like, so she can put together concept plans for future, and then we can look into budgetary impacts down the road.
I
So
like the
first thing you
ADA
men-
compliant. I do like that,
Okay. Well, the first thing you mentioned was baseball park. How many baseball fields do we have in our town?
too.
Where?
There's the professional Redbirds, which is not open to the public, and then we have our Unity Ball Field, which is open to the public.
Where, we have our what?
We have like 6 or 7, but some of them are at
Six or
schools.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Oh,
Are you saying over at the middle school there's some?
Not city-owned,
Not
but
city owned.
total.
So,
City
but
owned,
those,
we
are
have
those,
some
are
that-
those ones are those ones over there for gym, or are they, I mean, FIAD, or whatever you wanna call it, or are they for,
No.
can a team go over there and play?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess
At
I've
the
seen,
school?
I guess I've seen teams over there
Yeah.
playing. But as far as city parks go, we only have the one Bluebird Park.
All 3 schools have baseball fields.
Bluebird Park, or Redbirds do rent that out for, I've seen kids as young as U15 teams over there playing. So they do rent that out. It's not like it's exclusively for Redbirds.
And then we have Unity Park. So Unity is our city-owned then, that is for public, and we do have, like, the Delbo Baseball League rents that in the summer for their league games.
So how many do we have city owned? Just the
So-
one?
One.
Just,
Oh,
just,
for-
just,
yeah,
the-
just
just
for
the-
And then
public,
Bluebirds
one.
and then the
And then
schools.
Redbirds, yeah.
Yep.
How popular is that one that we own?
So the only league that has rented it since I've been here is the Delbo League. So the ministry.
I don't see why we need more baseball fields.
I think that maybe
Well, I'm
just
telling you,
improve the one we have
Yeah.
a little bit.
Improve that one would be.
I'm telling you, Redbirds is pretty busy. It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it's not just Redbirds over there either.
Yeah, but.
No,
even if
but
you
they're
were-
pretty picky on who they let on that
Well,
field.
that's my point. Maybe we would get more teams playing in town if we had one that was more city.
Improved. We could improve the one we have.
Well, we'd also would want to get it more utilized, saying, you know, if you want our funding, we want it to be used more by other teams. So that
I
more
think-
people can play over there.
I think if we build it, they will come.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah, I'm missing him, so I kind of throws the line out. I think the ADA compliant thing is perfect. I think we
Yeah.
should do that. That way Paul can swing in 2 years, so, you know.
Only if the mayor pushes me,
I'll
so
push
that, in 2 years.
But
In
we
my-
need
in
the
my
swings for
wheelchair.
him to do so, is my point. I just don't see why we need to improve the baseball field that we have. I think that's a good idea.
Yep. Instead of adding another improved one we
Yeah,
already
let's
have.
just improve the one we have. What else did we have on that list? Skateboard park.
Aren't we gonna be
Skateboard park.
approached by the Redbirds to paint half of that
The outer part of that fence?
Yeah.
We already have. Well, we asked them to, and they said no, and now they're asking us to.
They said, what I've heard is that they're willing to paint the inside if we paint the outside.
The inside
They,
is painted.
the inside is their responsibility.
That's what I'm saying. They'll do that, but they
They
want
already
us.
did it.
Oh, did they? I
Now
thought
they're
they-
asking us, because I said, well, what about when you paint the inside, you can paint the outside, and they, no, we'll just paint the inside, because
That's all they care about.
I believe that's all they could afford.
Yeah,
As
they-
they aren't having their pull tab income revenue coming in.
True.
Because they used to do pull tabs at someplace in Bram. They are no longer able to have that. So I know that they do have a reduction in.
they don't have
in
very
revenue.
much money, much funds coming in, so. I think the backside of it looks horrendous, but that's just me.
Well, as far
So
as, you
that
know.
would be part of Bluebird
yeah,
Park,
yeah.
improving Bluebird Park. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
look into the cost of painting that fence, the ADA compliant. The
That's-
skateboard park, as much as I wanna say no, I think it'd be a good idea, cause I just think crime rate.
I see kids being physical.
I do
That
too.
don't play on the playground equipment.
I do too.
You know, they're getting
And if you give
exercise.
the kids somewhere to go, maybe they'll stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
That's the hope anyway.
You could phase that, you know, one piece of equipment per year for 3, 4 years, however, you know.
Professionally speaking, not every old person, including myself, isn't in a wheelchair. So I think that if we could put it like in some, what are those pits
Well,
called?
the ADA
Do
doesn't
we need one of those
necessarily
saddle
mean
seats
for
for
old
those
people.
others?
No, what are those things called where the horseshoe? I think we should put in some horseshoe pits and,
That's
Do we
a
have
great
any of
idea.
those?
So we do have horseshoe over at Matson. We've got
thought we
did. Oh, yeah,
horseshoes
you're
over
right, we
there.
do.
Yeah, we put in pickleball this year.
but we want one themed park where everybody can go. I would think we'd.
We don't wanna
They're-
put
they're
the
not
same
that-
thing in the parks that we already have in other
Well, they
parks.
both have swing sets. I mean, we have.
Yeah, but
swing-
we're not ADA compliant at any park.
Well, the horseshoes isn't gonna be ADA compliant.
Well, we have it at Matson though.
How about an air hockey table there instead?
Oh, my stuff.
Air hockey outside.
The fitness equipment,
You can do,
the
yeah.
fitness equipment would be something
The
that
fitness
would be
equipment,
for all
there's-
ages also.
So what kind of, I don't mean to be stupid, what kind of a fitness equipment would you put outside?
They have recreational equipment that is like an elliptical trainer or,
You can keep that,
Bikes
can you keep,
or-
can you keep that outside in the rain, or how does
yeah,
that
it
work?
looks just
It's
like
just all mechanical.
playground
Oh, is that what it is?
equipment. Yeah.
It's a whole industry, it's a whole kind of sector of the recreational, area, that they have businesses that come out and they can do an entire fitness park outside for you with the elements, being cautious of that. They've got different ones where you can even, produce like the solar power of it, so you could use like the wind equipment or use the equipment to power the park, you know, stuff like that. So they've got a lot of options that are specifically meant to be in parks and be outdoors that are fitness equipment.
It's not a bad idea either.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
I
So
think there's
how-
a lot to look into. Josie had some good ideas, or you, whomever came up with those, but I think they're more,
And
I think they're more than worth looking into.
I thought about some upgrades for the dog park, and then actually, you already got one coming,
Yep,
I heard.
yep, so the culvert,
Yep.
will get placed.
And then, I don't know, that dog park isn't lit very well, is it?
It's not, so you guys will actually see
Yeah.
this, so, with the archery range, so either this next council or the, following council meeting, when I bring that to you, we'll include lighting that supports both the archery range and the dog park.
Because it's summer, or, it's not such a big deal, but in the winter,
Yeah.
you get home from work at 4 o'clock and it's dark, and you wanna bring your dog to the dog park?
Yeah, and on that.
Doesn't
farm,
work
there's
out so
no
well.
lighting. Yeah,
Yeah, but that park's closed at 10 o'clock, like every other park.
but the sun goes
Right.
down at, you know,
But
Yeah,
6.
it's
true,
dark at
true.
4:30, I mean, it's
In the winter,
8:30
yeah.
now, it's been dark for a
Yeah.
couple
It
hours.
feels like midnight. Quit talking so we can keep going.
Well, thank you. We have some direction, probably later in the year. Ms.
Did we
Olson
give
will
you a
be
year's
bringing
worth,
to Park
Alyssa?
Board to see
All right.
what other things, because even though we're talking about now, as I said, that this is something that's gonna go out years, because if we just keep, not that we've been doing this per se, but keep. just-
Nitpicking?
No, not
Nibbling
nitpicking, but
away.
just, we're gonna put this in there, and we're gonna put this in there, and we're gonna put this, in. We want it to be a cohesive.
Frivolously throwing things out there, is that what you're saying, Josie?
So you don't say,
Very
oh, we,
planet person, and I wanna see it on paper.
I know,
so you don't say, oh, we shouldn't have put this here, because we would've had more room if for this and that could have fit
Well,
better
everything
there.
can kind of fit together, and pretty soon
Yeah.
you're gonna run out of space if you didn't strategically think about them all together.
Right, and then
As-
you're gonna be left with an oddball space that might not fit anything.
Yes, and we also need some trees. We hear a lot of requests, like we'd like some shade and things like that. And that's also gonna be in the plan to put together that. Well, if she puts together a great tree plan, all of a sudden you have all this equipment now that was obsolete if she wasted time, and we don't want anyone to have wasted time. Time is money. So it all
Makes
works
sense.
together, that we talk about it early.
How about parts of the Bluebird Park that might be a little bit ignored? Like we have, I don't know if anybody would play basketball at night, you know, but that whole basketball court over there seems to, you can't go play at night. I don't know, has that been requested at all?
I have not heard.
I haven't received any requests about that basketball court, but I do
Nor
see
have
kids
I.
playing at it.
I'll send one over, so.
You
The
can be
chief and
anonymous.
the chief and I wanna go one-on-one, but the only time we have is at night, so.
So you can at least play till 9:30 to 10 o'clock, you get a half hour light.
There you go.
This summer, it's been.
All right. Number 9, increasing social media presence.
Okay, so we do have YouTube for our council and cow meetings. We have Facebook. We have it for the liquor store, police department, and then for our city page that's shared with our community events. One thing that Stephanie has shared with me is that having
No tweets.
LinkedIn, sorry, I was gonna say InDesign, I'm like, that's not right. Having LinkedIn as a social media page can really help with economic development and business retention and growth. And so we're looking for, again, this is something that it's with staff's time that we have, so we wouldn't overcommit to putting a lot of posts together. Some of the other staff will also assist. Eventually down the road, this would go to a marketing person, but having LinkedIn posts to help her keep the businesses together, sharing whether we have something like a redevelopment district where they could apply for funds or grant opportunities, like when we had the COVID grant opportunities, things like that. She can easily share.
I see a lot of them on there.
There's a
What-
lot of them on there.
A lot
What's
of
that cost
ex-employees
somebody?
here are on there for the cities they're at now.
I know they all friend me. or
I'm
not
gonna ask
talk
Jimmy
about
this
friend me.
question.
They all
What's that
connect
cost
with me.
somebody?
I'm like, oh.
Doesn't cost anything.
Really?
Free.
No, it's like Facebook, but not Facebook. It's more professional business
Yeah.
oriented than
Well,
Facebook.
I like free stuff, so.
And I also spoke with Alyssa and Katie, and they both would agree that we could use it for other non-just economic development stuff as well. Hiring people, posting jobs.
My full-time job has it. I think I've been on it once, but
So who's posting now? Is it all you, Stephanie?
We haven't started yet. This is getting to
Our
On her
face-
Facebook
Our
is-
city Facebook page is typically Ms. Olson. I do some, typically like commenting on people's comments or things that I do, but she does all of her posts for events.
oh, you're that rude person they're talking about. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I know that was someone who already left. No. But then we have other staff who, like Jaden can also post our packet or our meeting agendas. We try to get on there just to get the word out. So it is a collaborative effort, and we do share the duty, but I would say at this point, that would be something that would move to a marketing person down the road, but Alyssa is managing it now, and it does take time. So we don't want to overpromise that we do a lot on LinkedIn, but we do think that it could be a great avenue to start and eventually grow.
I think more information the merrier in my mind, so. I'm very transparent, I have nothing to hide. And I'd like all of the staff to be that way, so. I'm all for LinkedIn if you guys want it. Anybody have any disagreements there?
Nope,
It's
I
free,
just-
that's,
It's a
Nope,
great
just
way
take
to
staff
connect.
time, That's it.
yes.
It's a
think
great
we'll
way to
just-
connect with other business professionals in their area expertise. You can get ideas, you can get experiences.
That's what my company
You
uses
know.
it for, is other business ideas and
Yeah.
comments, questions.
What works, what don't work.
Right. Number 10, reorganizing of Planning Commission Board.
So in 2016, the Planning Commission Board had 7 members that went down to 5 members, and 2 at that time were council members. Then in 2017, it was amended again for reorganization to have 7 members, of which 5 members of council would be on there. The question that I have for you all is, if the Planning Commission's role is to look and review and make recommendations to the council, do you want all of council to be on the planning commission recommendation board? It possibly could have happened, there's a few different reasons. If one of the reasons of why it shifted to all council was because they couldn't get people to get engaged with the community, I do think Ms. Olson's done a tremendous job of getting word out and putting together really creative marketing strategies to get people to join our boards. It's been very successful in the short time that she's done that. So I think we have another avenue to get people interested in how they can make a difference in their community. If you want it to stay the same, that's fine too. I just wanted to bring it up. It's not typical to have a
I'm pretty
recommending board
boisterous as far as that
recommend
goes
themselves.
too. I mean, you notice how the park board seats go empty and then somebody pops right in? Not only you, but I'm out there literally,
Planning commission, though, is a lot different.
it's residential geared.
Do we still have an open seat still?
So why wouldn't we gear it
I
towards
mean, if
more
we can't fill
residents?
one seat,
Like EDA, gear that more towards
EDA has
businesses
an
in our
open seat.
community.
I mean,
When I first got on city council, I was put on planning commission, and it was Councilman Lundin, myself, Dave England actually chaired that board. He lives over by the garden, I can picture his face, Wayne Traver, and then his buddy across the street,
Greg.
Greg. whatever.
Slawski or Karate,
Yeah,
I know who you're
so
talking about.
it was us,
Krasinski?
yeah.
I'm close.
And so that's who was on that board, and I don't know, I thought it was worthwhile having
we can't
at
even,
large
What I'm
members.
thinking,
we
what I'm
can't even
thinking of
keep
is,
the 2 seats filled right now, though. How are we gonna get 3 more? on top
Well,
of
I'm
that?
not saying back then we did.
we
I
gotta
don't
give it
know.
a chance, Dan. You just can't say, we can't do it, so forget it.
Well, how about we worry about filling our 1 seat
I think if
got?
we geared planning commission towards more residents, I think they would come.
Yeah.
If we geared EDA towards more businesses in our community, they would come.
So currently, the planning commission is full. We do
It
have the 2
did
members
fill?
at large. Where we have an open seat is EDA. I will say, I think that back in, I think it was in 2016 when it switched from 7 to 5 members. That's when they also made the shift that you had to be within the city of Isani. We used to have it where it was
Well, that's-
2/3 could
yeah.
be outside. So I believe Dave was outside city limits, and
That's why he got kicked
he
out,
had-
yeah.
Yeah, he had to be removed from the seat because they changed the criteria. So that's something we can open it up to a broader category, and we do have some tier 1 properties, technically out of city limits, so sometimes that is beneficial to have an outside perspective to grow the city. But their main goal is to, look at our zoning code, see if what their request is, whether it's a site plan or some other, request, meets our zoning code, and then make a recommendation to the council. They're just an advisory board, they can't make decisions.
Right.
If that was something that council wanted to explore, was to go back to 2 council members on there and then having the rest at large. The reason why I bring it up now is because it will take time to develop a plan, because we have to stagger the terms, because you don't want to have a mass exodus of everybody at the same. So it will take a couple years to put it together, to go back to where we were, if that's where we want to go. If not, that's fine too. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
I thought it was more valuable doing it the way we used to do it.
I'm in
Why
favor.
did, why did we change it from that? What was the reason that?
Same with the committee.
Well, because we did the committee of the whole, I don't know who decided it, but they would decide everybody should be on.
League of Minnesota Cities and our attorney at the time that was their recommendation.
Yeah, that we put everybody, all the council on every board. And we did it with everything but park board. Used to be planning commission was that way, EDA met at
Liquor
separate
store
time.
committee.
We had a police commission, we had a.
Finance committee,
we had a whatever you
police
call
committee.
yourself, what do you call yourself? Public Works Committee.
We had all these committees
Okay,
Well, there's
that really only 2 people were going to.
right.
Yep,
And those 2 people, I'm not gonna name, but
Right, I
they
know.
were.
No, I was on liquor store.
I was on
What
liquor
were you-
store,
you were liquor
police.
store, we were on police.
and
Steve and I was on planning commission.
So there's 3.
so on 3, yeah.
But there were so many. I mean, literally, and it was,
I think
So there's
committee
a
of the
couple
whole
different
is
things
great,
with
but
some of those committees that you're talking about, whether it be Public Works, Liquor, those were basically subcommittees. However, they were subject to the open meeting law. And so instead of keeping those and making them posted as all public meetings, they were dissolved and we brought in committee of the whole.
See,
That
that's
is
where I
different than
got
what we did
confused.
with the planning commission.
we never had committee of the whole.
No, we didn't, because we had these other committees, but they should have been open to the public.
That part, that's what confused me.
I
is
didn't
the
think you were
part that
gonna
it's
say
open to the
that. I'm
public.
proud of you.
I know.
I owe you a pat on the back.
I felt I was more in tune with the liquor store and more in tune with the police department, more in tune with Public Works when we had those committees.
Yeah,
Do you agree with that?
oh yeah, by far.
Yeah.
I think you two are coming back, and possibly Councilman Lundin coming back to the council, bringing back your
Information.
non-public information, but there were entities on that council.
Well, I didn't even know about that committee that we're talking about.
There were council members on that council that didn't do the same as you guys.
No, because everybody was assigned to different committees.
Right, so those committees you knew zero about, your committees, they knew everything about, and that was kind of, and I'll fully admit, I had the discussion with Josie, I didn't think it was fair. I think we should all make decisions as a whole, and what do we need all these committees for?
I
And
think-
now we make decisions as 5 of us.
Well, I don't know, I
There's
thought-
nobody to
yeah.
point at. You can't point at me, you can't point at you, can't point at you, can't point at Lundin or Gordon. You can't point at anybody singly or doubly. It's 5, we're a team.
Okay. I liked,
But at the same time, to get back to what we were discussing, planning commission should be resident orientated.
I'm all for that because,
EDA should be business orientated within our community.
because I thought I was on
It is
both.
typical, we're gonna separate the two, so planning commission, possibly. EDA typically is council, because EDA is a board that can make decisions.
Make
They're not a
decisions.
recommendation board, so I'm actually not requesting to change anything.
Money
to EDA.
decisions.
Yep, just planning commission.
Okay, I stand corrected.
But so
planning
you said that
commission-
the reason that we changed from that structure was different than the rest of it. So what was the reason for changing the planning to what it is now then?
I know that there was some conversations about not being able to fill seats.
We had the seats
But I-
filled, didn't we have the seats filled? I sat on the commission.
And then
We
some
were-
people, they ultimately voted, council voted at that time to not have members outside of city limits, so that changed. I for sure got rid of one.
So you're shrinking.
I'm not, I don't know if I have 100% why they made it because of this evidence, I'm not sure.
I don't know who voted on that, but I think if you went
I'm just
back
gonna smile.
and checked that decision, that was a unilateral decision. I don't think that was a council decision.
So here's for instance, there's however many residents on there and 2 council members on planning commission, right? How many times is something gonna get bounced back and forth for a business person on his side? Because you guys bring it back to council and me and Jimmy don't like that or whatever, and it just doesn't pass. Then it's gotta go back to planning commission again. How long before a business person says, I'm gonna go down to Ham Lake?
I don't remember having that problem. Did we have that problem?
The planning commission can supersede the recommendation from, or the council can
Council can.
supersede the
Yeah, the council has the
recommendation
right
from
to
the
stop the
planning
bleeding right
commission.
then and there.
So,
But in
Right,
giving what
but then
Councilmember
it gets
Paulson
kicked
said-
back to planning commission.
Why, if the council's stopping it?
Because it has to be approved in planning
Approved.
before.
No, it does
No.
not.
No, it does not.
No.
So it can come to
Council
us
just
without.
planning
They
commission.
They are an advisory board,
Yeah,
just
I
like Park and Rec.
I get
is an
that.
advisory board.
But
So
so
all
if I
they're
go,
doing
if I
is,
have something I want to do, like put a food truck.
Site plan.
Well, yeah, put something somewhere, and I gotta go to planning. If planning doesn't approve it, it can still go to city council? It'll just
It
go
still
with the
would go to
recommendation?
They have
We're-
they have to,
Yeah.
whether they
you
approve it or
have to
not, it
re-
still goes.
you have to
The
request it.
planning commission just says, we don't think you should approve it.
Okay, all right.
However, along the lines of what Councilmember Carlson is saying, I will say it probably does give a sense of hope to the requestee at Planning Commission, knowing that 5 of the members there voted for it at Planning
Yep.
Commission. They probably have a good feeling that it would pass council. So there would be that. Is that what you're kind of getting to? A
Yep,
little
because
bit?
Right now, it's,
when it was the old way, I seen that, where, so then we didn't like a plot approval or whatever, so it had to go back to planning commission, and then would come back to council with the changes that we wanted to see. So for me, as a business owner, that's someone playing pinball with me.
you gonna make it? You need some more water?
I think on paper, you're right, but I never saw that in practicality.
I think it can.
Hands in the air, hands in the air.
I
I
think
thought it was supposed,
Oh, geez, I didn't go there. Hands in the air with the kids thing.
Stand on my head?
I personally think it's the council advising the council.
If I can say something, I think it also sometimes is helpful to just see other points of view too. So sometimes maybe it's something you would think you wouldn't have approved if it was council and recommending to council, but you hear an outside viewpoint that maybe, oh, it changes your mind about it. So I just think it opens up.
I think it's more fair in my mind.
We still have two people from the public on the planning commission, don't we?
Yeah, planning commission is public comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also have two residents on the board.
Yes.
Yeah, but what we're proposing is we put two more,
So there-
essentially.
Actually, you could do 5 and then do 3 residents and 2 council members.
Yeah.
So take away
The
3 of the 5
7.
council members and replace them with residents, plus the 2 more.
The two that we have, and yeah. Drink some water, Dan. Hands in the air.
Underneath the desk.
Which, I'm the chair, so I guess I don't get to go nowhere. You vote somebody else in the chair.
I'm gonna vote somebody else.
Why wouldn't you? I'm all.
Again, just bring it to your attention that if it's something that goal that council wanted to do, it would take us some time. And we put a plan in place, but it would take some time to get there. If no change is warranted, that's fine too.
I'm open to opinions.
Yeah, I think when it came up, I voted down committee of the whole, so if we can go back to, anything we can do back to the old way, I'm in favor of, so I'm all for you.
We're not bringing back the committees like that. No, I'm just kidding.
I concur. No
Just kidding, I'll do
committee
whatever you guys
stand at
vote on.
all.
I like it the way it is.
I like that we're all making decisions here.
I just missed the field trips over to the liquor store, you know, and the police department, and the police department.
Keith?
You still have the
you still
candy
do field
dish on
trips?
the,
One-on-one
on the
field
table
trips?
there, chief? Do you have the candy dish
You
right
can
there?
still come in there and have candy, Paul.
No, they won't let you in the door if you don't have business.
If you ask nicely, they might.
Actually, this would be a great point or time to then point out, having heard what Councilmember Burley just said. If at any time, any facility, any council member wants to tour, department heads are more than happy. If you've never visited
I
our
thought you were
wastewater
bringing us
plant
candy.
or our, what?
I thought you were bringing candy. I was all excited for a second there.
Sorry. But if you do want to see a facility or you want to be, like, tell me how this all works, we are more than happy as department heads to show you around, show you the ins and outs if you'd like, if you do want to see.
I know the chief does donuts on a daily basis, don't you? Because they're good, right?
He's a rock star, that's why we keep our employees.
Chief,
right?
don't you call those crime-fighting biscuits? Isn't that what they're called? What's that? Not donuts.
I don't know, not the previous chief, you would like to try and sway us with beef sticks from my standing retail meats, just saying. You remember that, don't you?
I'm gonna bite my tongue because I was so gonna say something that would burn me in the end, so I'm not saying it.
I'm just joking.
Food for thought.
For that, at this time, we will not proceed with looking into that farther, but if something changes, please let staff know. Are there any other items that council would like to discuss? Otherwise, I'll do a recap of what we've just discussed for this session.
Can I just jump back to Berkeley so we get this on record? As far as somebody comes in here with a firearm, long gun, we do have a state statute that prohibits that without a permit to carry. So it is illegal to bring a long gun into that.
It is illegal to bring a long gun in City Hall.
What's illegal, you said?
Yeah, so 624.7181.
Look up that statute and chew on
Okay.
it, Councilman Burgley.
So just so I clarify that.
Thank you.
Recap away, Ms. Wood.
All right, starting number 1, for the dynamic sign, staff is going to look into if there's any interest in other organizations to partner with the city doing some kind of signage, dynamic sign. We're also going to look into if there is the ability to have a liquor store sign with a dynamic sign, and we're also going to look into if there's any interest in selling or giving the city an easement for signage outside of city limits and going south of the city limits. For employee retention, we are going to bring back to see who can attend, if we were to develop a subcommittee for any kind of union negotiations, or to see what needs to be open to the public, or what can be done in closed session, bringing that forward. And then beyond that point, we will discuss if we want to look at actual wages and metro pay. Whiskey Sidewalk Infill, the mayor is going to maybe discuss again with the homeowners to see if their interest in having a sidewalk on the sides of their property has changed. And also to see, we'll talk with the legal team that we have to see if there would be, what the city can do for incentives to offer to get that sidewalk completed. For item number 4, the staff is going to reach out to see what bulletproofing options and to make the council chamber safer, what those costs would be. And it would be including the window, the glass area, and behind the dais. Item number 5 is that the council does care about industrial growth. It is to look at, have staff look into utilities going to that 66-acre property, just putting together a mock plan. So if someone does come with interest, we do have something we can show them of how that can make it happen. At this time, we will not proceed with a hard interest in purchasing the 20 acres. However, staff is going to reach out to the property owner to see if there is a cost and potentially bring that back to EDA. Item number 6, redevelopment district. Directions for staff to look into that further to see what we can give to businesses, not with using the city as doing any kind of cost match with any kind of funding opportunities, but to see what we can facilitate to give back to our community, to our businesses and potential residents. Item number 7, age-friendly city, look into that further as staff has time to see what kind of funding opportunities we have. That can kind of roll into item number 8 with future amenities for Bluebird Park, looking at a long-term plan, having something such as inclusive play, ADA park structures, as well as increasing the skate park equipment and potentially maybe some exercise equipment, and what kind of funding opportunities are that, but to put together a plan for that whole Bluebird Park area for years to come so staff can have a cohesive plan. Item number 9, to increase social media. Consensus for council or for staff to have a LinkedIn account to help with facilitating city functions and business development and growth. Item number 10, for reorganization of the Planning Commission Board. We are not going to pursue that at this time, but that information is out.
Can I add one more thing real quick that I just thought of? The land that we recently got, we maybe contacted DNR and see what our limitations are, what we can do with that? The river property?
The land that Councilmember Collison is talking about is it was recently discovered that the city owns a piece of property on the west side of the Rum River, which is down by the access to the river on the north side of 5. I did confirm with the county today that it was given to the city in 1956, actually to Isani Village, which is what we were back in the day. And so we are adding that to our insurance liability for coverage, but something new that we found out, and we'll be moving on west. No, I'm just kidding.
I'd be curious to see what kind of restrictions the DNR would put on us for any improvements in the future for that parcel.
We're spreading our wings to the west, Paul. That's what she's insinuating.
You know,
We're
as far
going
as
over the bridge now.
a road that's asphalt going down there, or a parking area, or benches, or
I actually
anything.
think they would help us fund some of that stuff, so I don't think there's restrictions, but I'll look into it.
I didn't hear you mention Councilman Collison's plated glass.
Yeah,
Oh,
she did.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I tried to pay attention to this one, I apologize.
So the property, just so council is aware, this property that I've had highlighted here actually is in the city's name, and the city doesn't own that.
Well, that's new.
It is. Not new to the city, but new to all of us.
Yeah, really old. We have the scenic easement area blanketing this area, so they're pretty particular about anything.
It's weird where if you looked at the scenic easement map along the Rum River through like basically from South Isani all the way through Cambridge, it'll go like this around the river. I mean, it bumps out this far and then pretty soon it narrows up and it goes back out. It's really weird on I have no idea how that came to be that way, but if you ever look at it, it's not the same width all the way across on both sides of the river, all the way through. It bumps out real big, and then it's real shallow on this
So
stretch and bumps
essentially,
out. It's
what if we did want to
it's
tar
really
it?
weird. how
We
they-
did want to tar that and put a dock on it? You're saying we'd have to still ask the DNR for that
You would
permission?
actually have to get a permit from both the DNR and the Corps of Engineers.
Send the chief, he's former DNR, he'll get it.
It's been done along the river, cities putting parks in, so it's just fishing pier.
Fishing pier, yeah.
It's
that's
just, you better have some strong test line if you're pulling up a fish that high. It's like a 15-foot drop to the water
I
surface.
just spent the last 2 years building a park in Princeton in the floodplain in the middle of two pieces of the river, so
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with what they'll allow. But maybe some crushed granite would be a better option for a parking lot in it.
Yeah.
Class
Some-
5?
Because it does flood sometimes there, and whatever it is, you don't want it to wash away.
Right.
It's just something for conversation down the road.
Anything else? Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Burgley and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0, therefore we stand adjourned.